We're now reconvening to open session. We're now reconvening to open session. Reportable action items from closed session. In regards to items 4A, the personnel summary was approved in closed session and a copy is available at the back of the room. In regards to item 4C and 4E, the items were discussed in closed session but will be approved as part of the consent agenda. Can I have approval of the agenda for tonight, including time limits, please? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Do we have any public comment on the consent agenda? Or would anyone wish to have anything removed from the consent agenda that can be discussed as a separate item? I know I have two items, 17A and 17O. And so I'll open this up to Violet or any other student trustees that might arrive. Fellow trustees or anyone in the public like to make a comment on the consent agenda or have anything removed for discussion? I'm sensing Chuck Ford has something here. You want me to give you a moment? Which one? Okay.
B.
B.
B?
Boy.
Okay, thank you. So we have 17A, 17B, and 17-0, or O, will be removed from the consent agenda, and we'll discuss those items later at the end of the meeting. So now I'm going to ask for a roll call vote for the approval of the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda now, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
All right.
So Jennifer will have a roll call vote.
Ms. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Fetterman?
Aye.
And Ms. Lundgren? Arbiter?
Aye. Thank you. That passed. So now we have student trustee reports. And Violet, I do want to say a few words. You're here alone, but you were one of the student trustees that was not able to attend last time. And we wanted to express our appreciation for your contributions to our governance team and to Redwood High School in particular. It's very much appreciated. I think what I mentioned last time was that sometimes it's easy to find people that write about how much it helps the student to be on the governance team. And but I think this board, we've really experienced the huge contribution that you and the other trustees have made. And this particular year with what's happened at the national level as well as in our district with some very, very tough issues, we've really leaned on you more to tell us what the students are feeling and thinking and what you want, and you've done that without us asking. And it's so important, and it's been very, very much appreciated this year. And you've always been very professional and enjoyed your laughter quite a bit, and we're going to really miss you. But thank you for everything you've done, and I'll open it up to anyone else that would like to say anything now, or maybe people will chime in after you give us your report. But if anyone wants to say now, or we can wait.
I'd like to thank you guys and everyone here. I think we don't realize, the public and the students don't realize how much goes on to make the schools succeed at the rate that we do. And you guys do so much for our schools, and I'm so thankful to get to recognize that and experience it with you guys for these last 2 years. So thank you for that. But on to Redwood. I'm ready.
On to Redwood.
All right. So this week is Sustainability Week, and the goal is to promote sustainable living. We have spirit days every single day, activities before school and at lunch, and we have guest speakers that are coming into the classes. Peer Resource this week is having a sexual health awareness event. The boys golf boys golf 1 MCALs, boys baseball 1 MCALs, girls track 1 MCALs, the boys tennis team 1 NCS,
Wow.
and boys baseball are in NCS this week. The last 2 Mondays, we had our Senior Athletic Award Banquet and our Senior Academic Award Banquet, and they both went well. Gavin Newsom came to speak at our school in a school-wide assembly about being active in our communities and around issues that are important to us. Redwood was made an anti-defamation league, a no place for hate school. And we're happily finished with our AP testing, and we gave out approximately 1,700 exams. Thank you.
How many exams? Say that.
1,700
Oh, wow.
around.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So tonight, because of the packed agenda, we've moved the trustee and president's report to the end of the agenda, but I'll just wanted to point that out.
Leslie, I had number 6, did we announce what we did in closed session, the personnel summary?
Yes,
We did.
yes. It was when the crowd was a little bit loud, so you
Okay.
may not have heard it.
Thank you.
Since that's what's going to happen, I do want to say, Violet, your leadership at Redwood and in front of all of us here is so important. I hope, will continue this kind of work because you're attracting others behind you to do this work, and it's building. And again, your tribute to student voice, and I wish you every success, and thank you.
Thank you.
I feel like I need to say a thank you. You're sitting right here. And it's a night of thank you, so this is fun. And you weren't here when we had cupcakes for all of our student trustees, so Michael joked that we have a stale one for you back here, but no.
Perfect.
So you've been on the board for 2 years. Are you going to pursue any sort of governance, because you're very good at this role?
Who knows? You know, I think this was a great starter, and we'll see in the future. No major or anything like that. No, nothing major, so we'll see.
Well, we've loved having you on the board, and your contributions can't be overstated, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm just going to say I agree.
Had a good coach.
Do you have anything you want to say? You're all set. Okay, well, thank you. We'll now move on to the public comment period. This is the opportunity for the public to make comments on any item that is not on the agenda. And you've heard me describe this before, is that at this time, because it's not an agendized item, it's not the only reason why, but we have to be very careful about, deliberating or getting any sort of back and forth conversation. The board is at liberty to make a general comment or clarification. Sometimes we'll ask a question and have it followed up on, but we don't engage in the public. So anyone that's going to be making public comment, please don't mistake in our being quiet that we're not hearing you or that we may not be concerned. I am going to read the clause in the agenda. The board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and provides this time for members of the audience to address the board on any school-related matter not on this agenda. The board can take no action at this time. Each speaker is requested to identify themselves prior to addressing the board and will be heard up to 3 minutes. The presiding officer of the board shall determine, based on time constraints of the board, whether some time less than 3 minutes shall be allocated to individual speakers. So now, anyone that would like to come forward to address the board, I welcome you to stand here along the wall. And if you did not fill out a yellow card, that's okay, but if we do ask that you identify yourself so that we can be sure to record your comments. I thought I saw somebody. Okay. Oh, here we go. Thank you.
I do have a yellow card.
Oh, you do. Thank you so much.
My name is David Lazarowitz. I am a resident of Mill Valley, and I have 2 children, a 7th grader and an 8th grader at Mill Valley Middle School. And I think as parents, we all hope that our kids are going to be fine, everything is going to work out great, they're going to be happy and healthy. In my case, my son, who's an 8th grader now, was born with a neurological condition, and as a result of that, is nonverbal and has some communication, obviously, issues, sensory imbalance issues, and whatnot, but is otherwise a healthy kid and very happy and very gregarious and loves being a part of his community. And my wife and I have dedicated our lives to educating him within our school system. And he's been in Mill Valley for 8 years. And Mill Valley has made tremendous strides in educating students like my son with special needs, including verbal, or I should say nonverbal, impairments. Similarly, I'm sure as you're aware, Larkspur-Corte Madera School District has done a tremendous job educating its students in a similar capacity. More and more of the school districts are pulling out of county programs. So fast forward to today, we are currently transitioning to the TAM district, to your school district. And over the course of our IEP meetings to date have learned that there's nothing that you can offer my son. Within 20 minutes of meeting with your special ed director, we were told, TAM district doesn't educate students like my son, that we would have to go to a county program. So my wife and I have visited these various programs as well as the 3 significant high schools here and have been amazed at what we've seen in a bad way in terms of the county classrooms. A county classroom we were directed to here, the students are effectively in the classroom all day. They have lunch in the classroom. They're really not integrated as part of the community. Similarly, we were directed to Terra Linda, which isn't even in your school district, to look at that school. To date, we haven't seen a program that really fits my son's needs within the TAM district, and yet, we have seen Redwood High School, which on a positive note, has a very good program, and we think would be very fitting for my son, but we were told, no, you shouldn't look at, at Drake High School. We were effectively told, no, you shouldn't look at Drake because the teachers there don't have adequate training. So, we're caught in a situation where we see the school districts in this county moving ahead. I mean, we've moved out of, institutionalizing our children in the 1970s and trying to move away from a segregated school system. And a lot of the school districts are doing a tremendous job, and yet TAM district isn't doing that. We're effectively told, even at Drake, he can't be educated. So I'm here, and I know I'm out of time, but I'm here to tell you that you need to move forward. The district is living, I feel like I'm in Alabama in the 1950s, and we need to move forward. And whether you guys are going to do this because it's the right thing to do, because we're in a progressive state and a progressive county to move forward, that would be great, and that would be the way to move forward. Or I can tell you there is a groundswell of parents and students like my son and parents like us that are going to demand action. And so this district is going to need to change. And I hope that you will do the right thing and start to seize on these issues and make progressive change. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment? Oh, yes. I don't think so. I think we're all set.
Just have a moment to pull my notes. I'm sorry, I raced over from work. My name is Ava Crisanti, and I'm hoping to see some action on the pool this summer with regard to access to the Tamalpais High School pool for African American students. I can't hear you. I'm so sorry. I'm a little out of breath. I beg your pardon. I am hoping to see some development with regard to access for the Marin City children to the Tamalpais High School pool. As I think everybody is aware, because I keep going on and on about it, the Tam High pool, when I was a child, was racially integrated and affordable, and all the kids were terrific athletes and didn't need any swim lessons. So right now, the situation we have is unaffordable. $295 a week for a 4-day, half-day summer swim camp is simply absurd for working parents, and I don't want to get into my disappointment with the Strawberry Seals. And I deeply apologize for simply not having had enough time to even pull up my email, but I do want to talk briefly about our latest communication regarding Ann Jaime's comments on October 10, at the October 10 board meeting. And I do think it's very important to talk about what she said. And a white teacher gets up and speaks at a board meeting on videotape, and maybe being half Chinese, I'm a little too Confucian, but it never occurred to me that she wasn't telling the truth. I have a lot of respect for teachers. And over the months, I puzzled over this. I talked to my neighbors in Marin City, Mill Valley, and Sausalito. No one had ever heard of this kid. I talked to people in Corte Madera, and I couldn't find anything. And finally, I went up to the coroner's office, and I asked about this drowning that instructor Ann Jaime, who's been a longtime teacher in the district, and obviously has a very good rapport with the board and had established her bona fides within the swim community, and claimed that someone named Frankie Reeland had drowned in the Tam High pool, and this was the justification for barring children from the pool somehow. I want people to know that the coroner, as far as I could tell from the records, I went through records from 1975 through 1983. She said the incident happened in the late 70s. I found absolutely no record for any drowning death at the Tam High pool. I certainly found no Frankie Reeland. And of course, I submitted questions to you, very specific questions regarding the nature of her comments, what sort of follow-up you did, and whether this raised any red flags for you about Ms. Jaime, and about what sort of implicit biases we have in the first place, that a teacher could come up and say that without anyone questioning it. And it wasn't until I reached out to you after months and months of searching for this poor Frankie Reeland, that I got an answer from you that you had no substantive record. You had no record of this person whatsoever or such an incident whatsoever. So there's some work to do here, but if I could have 10 more seconds, I would like to say that I've come to think of the absence of evidence for Frankie Reeland drowning to death in any of the district pools as a metaphor, really, for our failure to come to terms with what we and the all-white board and all the mostly white community of Marin has done in terms of not recognizing our debt to Marin City and all the service they did for us in World War II, and our backhanded return of the compliment by refusing to let them rent or buy in Marin County for years after the 1948 Supreme Court decision that abolished the racial covenants. We really need to do a better job. I may be getting some legal assistance on this finally, but I do think we need to look at what sort of implicit biases we have within staff. And I would like some more serious answers about Ann Jaime, because when you tell me that she's an individual, you're negating the reality that she's your longtime employee. She was speaking at your board meeting in defense.
Thank you for your comment. It's been 3 minutes.
Thank you.
I think at the beginning of public comment, I said that sometimes the board will provide a clarifying statement, and I do have a statement I'd like to read to those of you in the audience. An independent outside legal investigator hired by the district found no evidence of discriminatory practices in the use policy for our swimming pool. The district does not offer open public swim at any of our pools. Community members that would like to enjoy open or public swim may do so at community or recreation centers throughout the county. The district abides by the education code with respect to the amount that we charge recreational and youth sport leagues or facility use. Any community member or organization can apply to use the TAM pool under that policy and be charged the appropriate fee. Now we'll move on to trustee considerations. And, well, this is always an exciting one. So I'll ask Dr. Tara Topier to come to the podium and do the presentation for the Chris Anderson Instructional Leadership Award. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. So this is a very special award that Ed Services is honored to give each year, and we give it in the name of former Assistant Superintendent for Educational Services, Chris Anderson, who is normally here, but she's unfortunately on some fabulous cruise in the Mediterranean, and apparently that won out. But she did send her deepest congratulations to this year's recipient. So this is extra special for us this year because the recipient is one of our own. This year we have the pleasure of honoring someone who really exemplifies all that Chris stood for while working for the public education, most specifically her fierce advocacy on the part of students. Amira Mustafa, our Director of Special Education, has been fighting for what is right for students since she began her career. First as a psychologist and now as our Director of Special Education in her current role. Amira is always looking for ways to improve the lives and learning experiences of our most vulnerable students. Just as Chris advocated for bringing special education students back into the district from the county office, Amira has spearheaded the development of our very own small school counseling enriched classroom that has allowed 12 students to return home and receive the necessary level of service right within our own district. We are beyond proud to work alongside with Amira, and I really can't say enough about what an incredible person she is and how deeply she impacts me on a daily basis. I thank her very much for her service. Amira, on behalf of the district, please accept this award. This is the plaque with your name on it, and it comes with a $3,000 honorarium.
I don't have much to say other than thank you so much, and thank you for a little over a year ago, I was in front of you at 2 board meetings proposing this program, and I am so grateful for the trust and your thorough review of this program, and we moved ahead and it is rocking it, and I just couldn't be prouder of the students and families and the teacher and psychologist and paras, so it's been great, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
So next item, we have Dr. David Yoshihara.
Yes. So I think this is the acknowledgement of our parent leaders. I believe our principals have the documents. I'm going to invite them up in no particular order. If you guys want to line, and I know we got many deserving parents here tonight, and our principals are here to acknowledge them. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Corbett Ellison. I'm the principal of Tamascal High School and the Tam Adult School. At a small school, a small alternative school, it takes a village. Everyone does a little bit of everything, and our parents at Tamascal have a huge voice. I utilize the advisory group to vet all sorts of conversations, to larger national issues, to pertinent issues coming before the board, just talking about their kid and their child and how we can better support them. And this parent group is no different. One of them is able to attend, but I do want to acknowledge Danielle Wiley, Marion Pearson, Noelle Kamenski, and Lydia Ratiane, who can be here tonight. But the parent who could be here is Terry Meadows. Terry Meadows has been at Tamascal for 7 years. She's had 2 daughters come through. She is the mom that comes to all the events, from Ross Valley, coming out on her motorcycle, to board committee meetings. She brings rockin' deviled eggs, those back-to-school nights that I go to every night. And she's just a sweetheart of a lady. Terry, will you come up and join me, please? If I could start a Tamascal Parent Hall of Fame, Terry would be the founding member. I'm going to miss her smile, miss her care, not only for her daughters, but for all the other children in our schools, not only at Tamascal District. So Terry, thank you very, very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David Sondheim, principal of Redwood High School. If I can take 10 seconds before I begin with our parents, Violet Liu. I want to thank you, too, for your 2 years of being a board trustee. You have been a model board trustee. You've represented Redwood well, you've represented yourself well, and you've been a joy to work with. You make me laugh, and you have done a great job. And I encourage you, as Laura asked, consider getting involved as you go forward, because you really are wonderful at it. So thank you. We have an incredible group of parents, so you guys come closer. To begin with, Paula Strand last night organized our academic banquet at Embassy Suites, and has done so for 4 years, and has been a foundation member for those 4 years, and a PTSA member for the 5 years before, and is hopefully graduating. No, is graduating. And we are so thankful for all the work you've done the entire time you've been here. So Paula, thank you. Sue Collini has led Redwood tours as long as I've been at Redwood, longer, and has been at Redwood longer than probably anybody's ever been at Redwood. But you have been tremendous at our tours, and I cannot thank you enough. It is a labor of love, to say the least. I won't tell you how many tours, but it's numerous, and there are literally a few thousand people that are served and are better oriented for being there. So thank you for all of your work. The next group of parents are our site council representatives. And I want to thank them, just as I, in a sense, did with Violet, for your willingness to speak openly, share parent perspectives, help us problem solve, and look at how to be a better school. And each of you have done that, and in a way that is wonderful for us to work with, at the same time as sometimes hearing some things that are tough, that help us get better. So, Julie Tantum, Dana Linker-Steele, John Kimball, and Chris Elder couldn't be here tonight, but thank you to each of you. And on our PTSA, oh, sorry, I'm going to go to Jen Tippett first. Jen, are you there? Jen Tippett has been the leader of our bench warmers, and is, again, just a force to be reckoned with. She smiles and she's nice, and yet she gets more done and knows how to convince all of us sometimes that we need to listen to. And so, Jen, I appreciate all the support and all the great work. You will be so sorely missed, and you may come to any Redwood athletic event that we don't charge to free every time. And on our PTSA side, Tracy Van Hooser, our vice president, can't be here tonight, but Patty Stadlin, who stepped in this year and did a tremendous job. I have been so fortunate to have parent leaders that are just wonderful to have worked with. And Patty, you have been incredible. And so I thank you for all the work. Campus beautification, parent education, and staff appreciation are the main things our PTSA do, and you do an outstanding job, and I thank you for the year. Oh, there you are. Our foundation president you've met before, I believe, Karen Lobica, who also does an amazing job coordinating an army of people, raising a ton of money, but perhaps most importantly, acts from her heart and her beliefs. And I so appreciate both the actions and the funds, certainly, but as much as anything, you caring so much about our kids and our school. So thank you, and fortunately, you'll be here next year. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening to the board. My name is J.C. Farr. I'm the principal at TAM, and I keep telling myself to not go after veteran principals because they'll know all the right things to say. And so, you know, I struggle coming behind David Sondheim. But thanks, David, for showing me a great example. in following in his footsteps, the last board meeting that I attended, Jacob, you weren't here, and I just wanted to just give you a little shout out tonight for all the work that you've done for TAM, representing the board, coming here, making sure that student voice is heard. I appreciate all the meetings that we've had after school, and you come in with your little pad and pen to take all the notes to share with the board, so thank you for your work here. So Team TAM, the parents that I work with and partner with on so many excellent things. We've done so many great things at TAM this year, and it's all with the partnership of the parents. So first, I would like to say thank you and come up, Karen Mizan, our PTSA president. Of course, they would be. Yours would be the. I have to wait just a second.
See what happens when you followed it.
It's in here somewhere. Just hang tight just for a second. Stephanie Alleman does our TAM tour. She's the vice chair of the TAM High Foundation. I found yours. Howard Wynn of the TAM Boosters. There. Did I miss anyone else that's here from TAM tonight? I'm just gonna tell you their names because they're all fabulous people and they all do so much. So Beth Fogel she's the executive vice president of the PTSA. Ethan Moeller, who's our chair of the TAM High Foundation. Sean Norton is the Boosters president. Deb Luster is the secretary of the TAM Boosters. Susie Andrews represents our school site council. Sophia Farrell represents our school site council. And Michelle Muir also serves on our school site council. So give them all a round of applause. Thank you.
And I just have to lower the mic after all these tall men. I came in tonight and I have already had 5 people ask me why I'm not wearing green. And I'm sorry. It'll never happen again. The one thing you know about me is my absolute passion and love for the school that I am so proud to work for, the one, the only Drake High School. But my passion and my pride absolutely pales in comparison compared to my parents. There's something odd, and again, this is my 7th high school. And there's something odd about Drake. We are absolutely willing to go for broke for green. And again, I know that I have to pedal way faster to keep up with, in this case, the women who helped me run this amazing school. I want to do a quick shout out though for somebody who I don't actually have anything for, but who's in the audience. And I just want to say thank you to my dear friend, Lisa Graham, for keeping it honest and real. And when I need a little slap upside the head, you do it, and you do it with grace, and you're always dead on. So thank you, Lisa. And she bleeds green, trust me, all green. A few years ago, way before my time, probably 5 or 6 years before my time, Drake High School did a kind of consolidation of all of our forces. And so our parent club, our boosters, our bench warmers, everything, came under the umbrella of the Drake Fund. And the Drake Fund is a phenomenal group. But as all good organizations go through, it needed some revision, rethinking, freshening, kind of dusting off the old and bringing in the new. I was really fortunate in the past few years to work with these lovely ladies who took that risk and kind of asked some tough questions of our community and how we did business, and now, a few years later, have come out with really a new vision, a new purpose, and a nice feel to the Drake Fund that I think one word that would sum it up is inclusiveness. So nice job, you guys. There's a huge long list of people, but I'm going to keep it short to the 4 people who are here tonight. And I would like to ask them to come up, and I will give them their little certificate. And just know that in my heart of hearts, you guys have made a difference, a huge difference in so many ways. I could go off on every single one of you. But I'd like Amy Sickler, Heidi Weller, and Julie Mazzana to come up, please. And I didn't ask her to come up, but I'd like her to come up now and say a few quick words. Pascal. Pascal thinks she's leaving us this year, but I know for a fact she'll be back. She's been a fabulous president, an amazing leader, and one that I have had the opportunity to stand back and just watch and learn from, and just feel so honored to be in her wake as she takes a bunch of parents and builds trust and camaraderie and truly a sense of wanting to just bleed green for our kids. So Pascal, thank you for being an inspiration and for making a difference at Drake. Thank you.
Lisa. Good evening. So as you all know, San Andreas is pretty awesome. Yes, thank you, thank you. But it wouldn't be as great as it is without some incredible support from amazing parents. And so Wendy and Lisa both have seniors this year who are going off to college. And they've been instrumental in helping to support me as a leader and having an influence on the campus. But they've also been influential in terms of some of the things I bring to the district in terms of what we can do to better support students to make sure they can be successful at all of our schools. They also helped us get recognized as a California model school this year. They were part of that process. Woo, San Andreas Model School. And they've been huge advocates for their own students as well as other students. Something special about both of these parents, they don't just speak on behalf of their own young men, but they speak on behalf of the students at the school and the students in the district. So really, really, truly appreciate that. Really, truly appreciate both of you. Thank you so much. And big round of applause. Thank you.
Yes. I just want to take a quick moment to thank all of our parent support, in particular our foundations who stepped forward to support instructional coaching for next year. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. And we received our first check today. Woohoo! Redwood Foundation dropped off a check for $120,000 today.
So next up, Lars Christensen.
Nice segue. We had academic coaches acknowledged and honored. Would like to take a few minutes to honor our athletic coaches. But before we do that, the actual presenter of this agenda item and one other this evening is Sue Cleany. And I'm going to try and do this without getting choked up. I've known Sue for many years, and not just in my role as an assistant superintendent with the TAM Union High School District, but also when I was the principal of Terra Linda for nearly a decade. I served as the MCAL president for 8 years, and Sue was a major force on that MCAL board and always very helpful. This is Sue's 6th decade working for the TAM Union High School District. 6 decades. There's a room full of people here, so I'm going to confess my age. I'm going to be 60 years old in December. When I was in kindergarten, Sue was teaching in the TAM Union High School District. It's remarkable. She is an amazing, amazing person who I love and respect. And this will be her last year serving in her role as our district athletic director. She's stepping away. I think she's still going to do school tours, but she asked that we maintain her email address, which we do gladly because she has other work to do for us. But in this particular role, this is her swan song. So before we introduce Sue to introduce outstanding athletes and coaches of the year, I'd like to bring up our three outstanding athletic directors, Nate Severin of Drake High School, Jessica Peisch of Redwood High School, and Christina Amoroso of Tamalpais High School to say a few words about Sue.
All right. I'm Christina Amoroso. I'm from Tamalpais High School. With the collaboration of these two, Jessica and Nate, this is kind of our thank you to Sue. So Sue, come on up here so everyone looks at you. So here's what we have to say in appreciation for Sue. We so appreciate your dedication to the TAM district in your capacity as our athletic coordinator. Thank you for being a strong and supportive advocate to your athletic directors, athletic trainers, coaches, student athletes, and our communities. You have created what I believe is a very informed, proactive, and influential group as we represent the TAM district in what we value not only at our school sites, but within our league and section. Thank you for being an instrumental leader at all levels of athletics. Your willingness to share best practices has always had the students' best interest in mind. Your historical knowledge has always been of great value to us as we continue to make decisions that benefit our student athletes and coaches. You have been incredibly gracious with your time and guidance. Your thoroughness, attention to detail, and presence at athletic council, league, and section meetings, workshops, and conferences will be missed. At this time, we feel that your varsity letters are long overdue and well-earned. We would like to present Sue Collini as the first staff member to earn a varsity letter at all three comprehensive high schools.
So I know that, hey, those are nice words and so forth, and you've got a wonderful memento. But Sue, you're not off the clock yet. You have work to do. So we need you up here. But without further ado, Sue Collini, a person like no other. Congratulations on a wonderful career.
Well, I'll say the same thing I did when I got unbelievably inducted to the Marin Athletic Foundation Hall of Fame. It said, I was in high school, there were no women's sports. We played half-court basketball, and we were allowed 3 dribbles. I was never an athlete. I probably never would have been an athlete, even if there was women's sports. We had GAA, Girls Athletic Association, and that was just intramurals, not even intramurals. And so I was never an athlete. I was never a coach. I was never an athletic director. And here I am. So I'm a good team mom. So anyway, I'm here tonight to introduce really good things about the athletic program. And the first thing I want to do is introduce to you students who were introduced by the Marin Athletic Foundation as representing their schools as outstanding student athletes. And the MAF looks at, or the school recommends, based on looking at academic involvement, leadership, scholarship, school community involvement, deportment, as well as athletics. So I would like the following students to come up, and I hope they're all here. I see a few of them. So from TAM, and please bring your plaques that you were awarded 2 weeks ago at the Marin Athletic Foundation Mario and Eva Gelati's banquet. So from TAM, the female student is Riley Johnson, an outstanding soccer player. Is she here? So if anybody wants to read about them on the agenda in the athletic report that's coming later, their bios are there. So the male outstanding student athlete from TAM is Noah Hainsworth. From Drake, we have Kirsty. Oh, I forgot to say that Riley is a soccer player. Noah is football and basketball. And then Kirsty Starr, volleyball, soccer, and swimming, 3 sports. Noah Bice, basketball, and importantly, unified sports. Oh, he told me he was coming. Okay, from Redwood, Jillian Wagner, cross country and track and field. And also from Redwood, Spencer Dow, wrestling. So these are only 4 of the students who represent over 2,000 student athletes that participated in TAM district sports during this year. Thank you very much. And the nice plaques that they got from the foundation. Okay, now we'll bring the athletic directors back for each to introduce their Coach of the Year. So first, well, since she already spoke, we'll invite Christina Amoroso from TAM to introduce her coach. Oh, first I want to say that the Coaches of the Year we have been recognizing since 98, 99. And the Coach of the Year shows growth and development of the program over time, is knowledgeable about the rules of the sport, conditioning, and strategies, provides an equal opportunity for all to learn and practice athletic skills, communicates positively with players and parents, maintains consistency with clear goals and expectations for all players, exhibits high standards of sportsmanship, promotes respect for officials, rules, and opponents, responsibly meets administrative expectations of coaching, and most importantly, goes the extra mile. So, Christina.
Okay. All right. I'd like to call John Haight up to the podium. So come on up, Coach Haight. So John has been with our girls golf program for 10 years. He is calm, patient, caring, and one of the most understanding and communicable coaches. During his tenure, he has steadily grown the program from MCAL contenders to NCS qualifiers. John is a dedicated coach that embodies the TUHSD athletic philosophy and fosters both the student and the athlete during the golf season. With a lot of early releases for matches in a short period of time, he is always reminding the team to balance their time, communicate with their teachers, parents, and coaches, and most importantly, to have fun. I have really enjoyed watching John evolve as a coach. His emphasis on sportsmanship, teaching the students the game, and constantly challenging them to change clubs and trust their practice time. He encourages his athletes and gives them every opportunity to further their game in whatever capacity they so choose. Every week, I enjoy getting an email in my inbox about the summary of the previous week's practices, match, and some photos to supplement it all. Here are some of the statements from his players. John is an amazing coach that focuses on the love of the game and making sure we love it just as much. He instantly welcomes anyone into the golf family, no matter your skill level, as long as you've got the mindset. Second athlete, just smile, it'll be all right. John has always found a way to make me strong and courageous. I started playing with the TAM golf team last year, and John's humor and dedication towards the team had me playing golf for the good thing in life, to be happy. John taught me that through thick and thin, things will turn up, and even if in the moment it is hard, you must never stop smiling and must never give up, and for that I am thankful. I could not be happier with the coach I have today and the amazing team that supports one another through everything. Very proud of John on this award. He deserves it. And the last one, is John keeps it simple. His goal is for us to enjoy the game. Over the past 4 years, he has helped me learn to appreciate the sport as much as he does and to take advantage of any situation, no matter how unfortunate the circumstances. John taught us that with a positive outlook, almost anything can be enjoyable. He contributes so much to the skill and morale seen on the team. We are so lucky to have him. So John Haight, our girls golf coach, is our TAM High Coach of the Year.
Okay, now Jessica Peisch to present this coach from Redwood.
Good evening. This coach added a new sport at Redwood High, She worked for nearly 3 years with a committee of student athletes and district personnel to create this sport within our district. She helped spearhead the sport to be added at Drake and Tam for this coming season. During the past 3 years as the head coach, her team has had an overall record of 22 wins, 8 losses, and 8 ties. She led the team to a winning record in only her second year with the program and continued that winning record this past fall. She has excelled at Redwood in creating a positive team environment that they call a competitive sisterhood. Her enthusiasm has resulted in one of the most popular sports on campus with growing numbers. She's able to motivate her team to work hard and respect each other. Jen Reedy has shown commitment and dedication to field hockey at Redwood High School and within our district. She has turned our program into a well-recognized and respected one. These accomplishments and her passion have made her this year's choice for Redwood Coach of the Year, Jen Reedy.
I just wanted to say a special thanks to the board for all of your support of field hockey to introduce an opportunity for young women to play sports. I think is a great gift, and delighted to have a partnership with Jessica Paish, and Sue Cellini has been such a great supporter, and really excited to have Tam and Drake on board. And just a shout out to my husband, because I couldn't work and coach without him. And my, thank you, and my 10-year-old daughter.
And Nate Severin from Drake.
Good evening. How's everybody doing? Great. So Drake High School's Coach of the Year is our diving coach, Miranda Moss. She's actually in Fiji. Don't blame her. I gave her a choice. I said you could come here or you could go to Fiji, and she chose Fiji. So I'll be speaking to her through YouTube. So Miranda emphasizes first and foremost all of the elements of our Drake Athletics vision statement. And those overarching principles are leadership, communication, integrity, and teamwork. She has been a diving coach at Drake for the last 4 years. And most recently, this year, she actually took on the coaching responsibilities for Redwood and Tam. So this required her to develop a very structured and organized practice schedule based off of all of the different school schedules on when they get out, and she did it masterfully. So we had staggered practices out at Drake with Tam, Redwood, and Drake all going back to back. Sometimes they'd share and sometimes they'd have their own practices. So that was very exciting to kind of see that take place and see the diving community kind of come together to help each other out. So through her career as a diving coach, she's consistently coached divers through league and section meets. And last year, she actually took one of her sophomore divers who started as a first-year diver, Rick Miles. He ended up going to state last year, and he now dives for the Air Force. So just another example of her ability to coach young athletes. She's an outstanding mentor and role model to our athletes and has taken extra steps to develop a sound diving program at Drake. And we will present Miranda's award at our Coaches Appreciation Dinner on June 6th. So thank you for allowing us to do this. It's awesome that we're able to recognize our coaches and our athletes and bring more excitement to athletics overall. So thank you.
I do need to say that these 3 coaches represent about 250 paid and volunteer coaches for all of our sports that we have in the district. So there are many coaches that they represent. So Christina has one more very special award to present.
All right, this is the last time I'll be up here. I have assistance from Dustin Nygaard, who's about to be awarded and recognized tonight by his daughter, Bella. So she is displaying the CIF Model Coach Award. Come on up here. There you go. And if I could have Dustin Nygaard come on up here. All right. So just kind of a side note, Dustin is a fellow colleague. I get the opportunity to teach PE with him every day, and I think it's been 13 and a half years, something like that. He has been one of the first coaches that has been along with me as I've been an athletic director, and he has coached anywhere from girls golf, girls soccer, and now boys golf. So he is everywhere and anywhere, always staying active, and I know picking up Bella's youth soccer team as well. So this is just a little bit about the Model Coach Award. You do need to have been coaching 10 years in high school to be even considered for it. And a model coach demonstrates and teaches the 6 core ethical values: trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and good citizenship. The CIF believes that the highest potential of sports is achieved when teachers and coaches consciously teach, enforce, advocate, and model these values, and are committed to the ideal of pursuing victory with honor. Guess not.
He made it a half hour.
His true passion for his teams and infectious desire to learn is admirable and model-worthy. Nygaard advocates an open, positive learning environment and encourages his student athletes to strive for progress in games and in training, all while not losing sight of academics in the classroom. His positive energy is embedded in the psyche of everyone he coaches. He pushes his players to their maximum ability while maintaining an element of relaxation and enjoyment. This unique ability contributes to Nygaard's success on and off the field. And so without further ado, I'd like Bella to issue her father the CIF Model Coach Award.
Thank you very much. I'll be seeing you later.
Thank you. Well, before we break for refreshments, Jacob, you arrived, I know you had something this afternoon, and you weren't here last time, and so the board, we do have a certificate for you and Violet. Wanted to thank you again for your dedication and coming to the meetings regularly and reporting out, and everything that the principal said about representing the students and how much it really helped us as a board. And what I said earlier when you weren't here is that, especially this last year, we've had some very serious issues come before the board, and it was always so helpful and meaningful for us to hear the student voice through you and your fellow student trustees. And many times you asked very, very, very good questions, and just can't thank you enough. I do have to mention, I remember last year you were running for student body vice president around this time. And I remember hearing you used our certificate, and you took pictures saying, "Support me like the board does." I thought that was so ingenious. Yeah. So I heard you used it as a campaign tool, but this year I don't think you'll take it to college with you. But in any event, I got a chuckle out of that. I remembered that right when we were talking. So, but thank you. It's been a delight, and we're going to miss you, both of you, next year. And all the best of luck to both of you. So thank you. And so now, why don't we give everyone a round of applause? And I think we're going to break for 15 minutes. And I think we have, yeah, we do. Okay, I wanted to make sure before I said we have refreshments, I looked down the aisle there, and we do have refreshments. So thank you, everybody. Dr. Tara Topier. Dr. Tara Topier.
Hi, everybody, again. So tonight I just have a few quick updates on the goals. First, as was mentioned earlier, we have successfully completed another season of AP testing with nearly 3,000 exams administered over the past 2 weeks with no problems reported. I want to thank the sites for being highly organized. I like to say it's kind of like sand, like they fill every crevice around here when AP testing is happening. And it was really Sam Zargar, who's not here, got like 16,000 steps in a day. But I know that all of the sites work really hard to coordinate this, and it's no small feat, and the students do an amazing job. So thank you. Our Students Organized Against Racism group met for the last time this year. This was their 4th full day together. They were facilitated by Dr. Lori Watson. And today they worked together on their plans for their site and across the district for next year, what projects they'll be working on, and also ways that they want to continue to meet next year. I also want to give you a quick update that enrollment for next year is slightly under our projection, and by slightly I mean literally like 22 students, but still we're just there, so our projections are pretty close to dead on, which is good. We're usually fairly stable from this point forward with a slight increase in the fall. And I also wanted to check in and let you know that we have begun the residency verification process that we were asked to do. We started with the students whose report cards from semester 1 were returned. We started with Redwood. They had 29 students in that situation. We have contacted all of those parents, required them to bring in proofs. A little more than half of them have already submitted their new proofs of residency, and we will continue to work across the district to identify those students and reach out to those parents and guardians. And what we're informing them is their students will not have a schedule in the fall if we don't have proper verification of residency. So that is an ongoing process that we will continue through the summer. So those are my updates.
Very good, thank you. So it seems, so that's it, right? Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I had a comment.
sorry.
I heard that we had a visit from the College Board during AP testing, and that some
did.
it was all buttoned up, and we
So-
passed with flying colors, right?
Yeah, the auditor was up at a Catholic school up the road that got in trouble last year, which we won't name.
Catholic school up the road.
We remain nameless. That Marin Catholic school up the road that did bad things last year and brought the auditors into our county. So they decided to stop by, and literally that morning I was in here getting something and saw Tim measuring. Tim Mullery had a measuring tape out, measuring the tables. And so when I heard the auditors here, I'm like, Tim measured those tables. There's no, and she apparently actually said, pulled them aside and said, how do you guys do this? They had never seen an organization that sort of smooth. So, yeah.
Great. That's
Will you say thank you to everybody who helped make that happen? I know a lot of parents audited all the AP exams, and
Yeah, it's a tremendous, we have huge support. It's a heavy lift, but they do a great job every year.
I'd like to add that if the legislation passes, I can't remember the number of the bill, but we're looking at that and the option of our students being able to, you know that, the number of that bill.
Take the SAT.
The SAT instead of the SBAC.
Right.
So to be this prepared, to be able to do that is going to be a tremendous opportunity for students.
Right.
Bravo.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So next up, we have the annual athletic report with Sue Collini. Seems appropriate. We were just talking about residency checks.
I have a couple of things to do first, and first I'd like to recognize our trainers who appreciate the contract renewal for last year. So Derek Harai is the manager of the athletic trainers. Andrew, do you want to stand up? Andrew Blood is the athletic trainer for Drake. And our new dad, Americ Alvarado, is here. So April what?
April 24th.
April 24th. So 3.5 pounds, but doing well now. So, yeah. I'd like to invite Derek up here for a minute because there is an award he wants to present to TAM. This is the Safe Schools Award. It recognizes secondary schools around the country that take crucial steps to keep their athletes free from injury. In order to achieve safe sports school status, the athletic program must have many qualifications, some including creating a positive athletic health care administrative system, promoting safe and appropriate practice and competition facilities, and to develop injury and illness prevention strategies, including protocols for environmental conditions. Tamalpais High School met all of the qualifications required and is proud to call themselves a safe sports school. It could not be done without not only the athletic director and athletic trainer, but as well all the administrative help that they get on a daily basis. And Redwood and Drake's are in the process for next year. So, Derek. So, Christina, come on up and get it. So As we all know, we really appreciate the training program, and you had a report from the athletic trainers in your packet, and I didn't know whether anybody had any questions. The reports are too lengthy. I don't intend to go over anything that's in there. I expect that you have read them or will read them, and does anybody have any questions about anything that's in the reports? What we were reacting to was trying to get some more qualitative data and not just and more readable data than we had last year. So last year it was very tiny, hard to read graphs and so forth. So we put it in something a little more usable, but maybe there's a little less detail than there had been in the past.
I think I had one question, and I'd have to open it up, and I won't do that. But I think you had a bar chart showing the injury rate per. Oh, no, it was the one that was the injury rate per limb. You had ankle, knee.
All the body parts.
Right, the body part one. Is that consistent with what you would expect to see? I'm just wondering, are we typical of what you see across the country?
Across the country?
Or
for this high school demographic, for the
right,
population we deal
right.
with, they're going to get the first time playing a sport, first time running, first time wearing cleats, first time doing all this conditioning stuff. So you get a lot of the ankles, the knees, and the stuff. And so so that's definitely kind of consistent with it. Yeah, it looks kind of high with a lot of ankle stuff, but you get a lot of freshmen. We have a huge freshman class that come out for basketball, for soccer, for lacrosse, first time playing football with cleats, and then you get those kind of injuries. Yeah.
And then my second question had to do with, there was a reference that the injury rate was actually declining the last few years. And do you attribute that to, also it sounds like your football participation rate has dropped. Do you think the two are related at all?
That too, but we're doing a lot on the preventative side now. For us being here for 8, 9 years, 7, 6 years, to working with the coaches, with athletic directors, with Sue, of trying to be more proactive. Like, what are some preventative techniques we could do? Ankle bracing, preventative stuff to kind of decline with that. But with new athletes coming to new sports, it'll come with a trend and it'll come back up, and kind of pay attention for that. But it's good to have the data so we can see where we're going with it, and then what's working and what's not working. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Anyone else have any questions?
Oh. I have two questions. I noticed there was one chart that showed how many cuts we need to make at each site, and Redwood is the only one that makes cuts.
No, the Redwood's the only one that put the data in.
Oh, okay. Well, that takes care of that. I thought that was odd, that Redwood was the only school cutting.
I think Redwood does have more cuts than either Drake or Tam because there are more students at the school, and that the inevitable thing of having a large school is you only have one varsity team in each sport, and when they're like track or swimming or football, they can take all comers, it's one thing. But when you have a limited sport like basketball, volleyball, soccer, you know that there's going to be a lot more people coming out when you have a bigger school, and there are going to be a lot more cuts. But soccer at all 3 schools cut, and I know basketball cut and so forth, but the numbers are going to be higher at Redwood because there are more students there.
Right.
It's unfortunate. Even adding, if you add extra teams, like you add a freshman team, it's a developmental team, but sooner or later those kids will either drop out or get cut as a junior because they can't play. There's only going to be one varsity team no matter what. So if you have a JV, a freshman level and a JV level, eventually you only have the varsity level and somebody's going to get cut. So that's unfortunate. But that's not on the trainer's report. That's on the athletic report.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at the athletic report, right?
We're looking at the trainer's report right now, the UCSF data.
Oh, okay. It's all the same agenda item, so I'm
Yeah, it's the
sorry.
same agenda item, doesn't it?
So do we just want athletic trainer questions now? Is that what we should keep it to?
If you have any, because then they can
go, right. I don't have any questions for you guys. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from board
my
members?
question was on the athletic report, but I'll take the opportunity while Americ is here to congratulate him on your new son.
Yes.
Thank you.
See, he's awake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get my rest when I can, but definitely, thank you guys.
And he's
Thank
on
you.
paternity leave now, so he's still coming.
That's impressive.
Very nice. Thank you.
All right, next I'd like to really highlight our unified teams that we've had now for 3 years, and Nate at Drake hosted a unified basketball tournament. So we have a short video from the tournament that Joanne has practiced putting on for you. So, Jennifer, excuse me.
This is now the third year that we've done unified basketball, and each year it's, we've added a little bit more. Unified basketball is a collaboration between general ed and special ed students to explore and to foster the love of the game and friendships and connect our community.
It's such a great opportunity for both the general education students and our special education students to come together and have an incredible time being connected.
I think it's really important because a lot of times there's disconnect and how these opportunities that integration provides and having. Yeah, I think a lot of the students come and watch these games and they get to know who the students are, and it's really fun for them about the game, and I've seen it often create the friendships up where kids come to lunch together all the time. Me and Griffin became friends last year. Yeah. It's a good environment, have lots of fun, everyone's included. And general ed students have a greater sense of community, compassion. They've met great friends that have stimulated their own personal development. The special ed kids are part of the team for maybe the first or second time in their lives, have made real connections, social connections throughout the campus, throughout the community, has fostered their confidence, their independence, their sense of being, and their joy of being in school. I mean, this is impacting generations in our community. To be able to see what goes on here, it just goes to really the fundamental respect that we all should have for each other. All our special ed kids are looking for is acceptance, and they're accepted in the team, the culture, and it benefits everyone.
I think inclusion is critical to all walks of life, but particularly with our young people, because it will establish how it is that they will go out into the world and ensure that everyone knows what to do.
I think it just kind of started with the idea of how powerful it can be with building relationships and bringing together a community that sometimes often gets excluded. And so this is the exact opposite of that. It's inclusion at the highest level. And we're doing that through sport. And that ultimately is what we are all about.
Very nice. Thank you.
So the athletic directors have worked with the Special Olympics, with the Marin County Office of Education, and with a special ed, I don't know what you call them, team captain or a coach that works with the program. So all of that is on a voluntary basis at this point. So I don't know if there's any questions about the unified program. So I hope you realize that in the unified program there are disabled students and they have unified partners. And there are rules about the unified partners can't pass to each other. They have to pass to a disabled one and various other rules in there. But it's just great to see them. And they usually play one game a year at least between the varsity boys and girls basketball games so that the entire school gets to see those. So any questions about unifying? The athletic directors are all here. I said, is Jessica still here? No. Yeah, there. Oh, in the corner. Okay, so they're here if you have any questions of the unified sports.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I love the unified sports philosophy. It's terrific. And I'm wondering what the process is for students to become unified partners, the students who play with the students who actually have disabilities. Is there
Does
an
one of the
application
ADs want to talk about that?
process and a long lineup of kids that want to do it, or how? tough is it to become a unified partner?
I think at all three sites, we probably do it a little bit differently, but as you know, Redwood with large numbers, we do have a lot of kids who want to do it. So we do require them to be in the Special Olympics Club that meets at lunchtime to help the ones who are, so they can build that friendship and bond with their unified partner. So we try to keep them so they just don't show up for a game. So it's part of a little bit team, and they practice and get ready for the games.
And there is a league. There is a league that plays, the schools in the MCAL play each other, so they have games besides that one that they play in between the games.
Thank you.
I also know a lot of those students take a class out of their day to work with the special ed students. And so I know a lot of them, it's
They're
more of a commitment.
Peer tutors in the special,
yeah, a lot of it. I don't know if that connects, but.
So I just want to say that Laura and I were both at that basketball unified games, and it's great to see it again. It was that, and I remember being at the track meet last year, prior spring, I guess, at Drake, and I think these are one of them, for me, it's just one of the most meaningful experiences that I think we can have. I mean, seeing the students support each other and the levels of enthusiasm and growth, very proud of the schools and of the kids and of staff, and I just want to thank you all for doing it. It's just really meaningful.
And Mr. Dibley is an awesome ref, very forgiving, and I think he was tearing up much of the time when we were watching. He was just so excited to be out there. That's fun.
And he got into the IJ too. He got good press for it.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? All right, so then the actual athletic report. I'd first like to introduce, as you well know, Chris McCune, who will be taking over athletics next year. And what more is there to say? So again, I'm going to say you can read it. There's lots of data in it. It's available on in the board agenda for anybody that didn't see it, and I'd open up to questions.
Anyone have any questions on the athletic report?
I have a comment and a question. So, well, two comments. First, thank you, Sue, for your service. It's very impressive, and
Thank you.
And we really, as a district, and the students have benefited from your dedication and effort. We really appreciate it. Also, I want to say that I really appreciated this report, and I know that last year we had some question about the format of the report and sort of whether we were kind of making decisions as opposed to, you recall, accepting the report. And I see that you took that. It looked to me like you had taken into account some of the feedback last year in putting together this report, and so I appreciate that. It was very clearly presented. One thing that would be interesting to know in terms of levels of participation is, and this would be maybe for Chris, for you, for next year, is I'm interested to see what our levels of participation are in proportion to the sizes of our student bodies. Because some of this is maybe a reflection of the fact that we've got, more students in the schools, and I'm interested in knowing sort of participation rates. And I don't know whether, how far back you can calculate that, but that would be useful also in terms of helping the judge, in my mind anyway, just the program and, to what extent we're reaching kids. So, thank you.
I have a comment. 6 decades, huh?
Well, in the 6th decade. I haven't been 6 decades. Got to get him on that one. No ride in the Jeep. He outed me.
So clarify what that meant. What did you just say?
Oh, I have John, my
I'm asking
husband,
about the decades
has a
question.
1946
Okay.
Jeep CJ2A, and we are bringing it home for the summer, and Lars wanted to ride in it.
Oh, I get that. So not 6 consecutive decades is what you
Decades have been consecutive, but it's been 53 years. It's in the 6th decade.
Okay.
But not 6
early
decades.
part. The early
I
part
started when
of
I
the
was
6th
8 years
decade.
old.
Okay. Okay.
My comment relates to a couple of things. One, That
Just trying to
handbook
help out.
that you worked on, I mean, obviously, these reports are certainly demonstrate hours and hours of work to compose them, and they're well-written, but it also represents all the data that you've helped to collect since you've been in this position. But that handbook for parents, students, and, well, parents and athletes, and then for the school, I think is just a phenomenal piece of text for us that will.
I think that coming from an English teacher.
And I also want to acknowledge all the support too, and I know you will do this. You mentioned it, John.
John. No, I didn't introduce my husband, John, who's put up with me.
Thank you both.
I have a question about football.
Yes.
You mentioned in your report that the numbers are declining, and I'm wondering if you have any further comment on the future of football in the TAM district.
Yeah, we talked about it at the Athletics Council. That's what's in there. The numbers have been declining league-wide, and not just league-wide, but in the state. There was talk about it at the CSADA conference, California State Athletic Directors Association conference in Burlingame in April, because they're statewide things and kind of seeing where is it going to go. So. And football is an expensive sport to run. So when you look at the numbers declining and the medical information that's out there and the changes in the sport in terms of how coaches coach and the safety issues, I mean, it's heads up football now. It's not, you know, go in there, spear somebody and get your helmet in there and you know, try to hurt somebody kind of thing. And so the game is changing with the medical things, even at the college and professional levels. But at the high school level, there's, you know, new reports out by young, you know, what's happening with concussions in younger students. But in our concussion data, you notice football is higher, but it's basketball and soccer, and I've forgotten what the fourth one was, but lacrosse, boys lacrosse, where we have that, is only fourth equivalent to volleyball. So you can get a concussion tripping over a parking barrier. You know, you don't have to be in sports to get a concussion. So you have to look at the whole thing. People have to learn to do it right. They have to be willing to put the time in, the skill. Some people still love the sport. The league we used to have 3 years ago, we had freshman, JV, and varsity football in the league, and now we just have frosh, soft, and varsity. Because of that, I think Marin Catholic and San Marin are the only two schools that run an independent freshman football program now. And the Pop Warner has disappeared in Southern Marin in favor of, I think Chris said, flag football is huge here now. So you have field rentals in the TAM district?
We still have the Southern Marin Broncos still run Pop Warner. There's two Pop Warner teams left in Marin, one at San Marin and one that actually use Redwood High School as their.
So what I see coming up, maybe, I mean, those flag football kids are coming up into in middle school and high school now. We'd start with probably club flag football. Can't say that fast. Club flag football, and because it's not a CIF recognized sport. You cannot drop below 2 teams. You have to have a developmental football team. You cannot have just a varsity team like you could if it was soccer, say. You could have just a varsity soccer, even though it's better to have developmental teams. But in football, for safety reasons, you don't want to put kids out there that have never played football against other teams that have. And it's just not a good thing. So I don't know where it's going. That's Chris's responsibility. I've dodged that bullet. Sooner or later, it's probably going to disappear in the county. You know, maybe it'd be 8-man football before it goes away. You know, it just looks like the kids are walking with their feet and they're growing in other sports. Mm-hmm. Other sports are growing and football is declining. Mm-hmm. And then we don't have lighted fields, and we don't have the Friday night football, and we don't have the football culture that they do in the San Joaquin Valley or in Texas or wherever. We don't have that kind of culture in Marin in the first place.
Thank you. Student trustees, do you have any questions?
You know, some years ago, the numbers at Redwood dropped, you know, you were here, and they
You
didn't
mean,
have football.
you mean the student numbers?
What?
Student numbers dropped. We did not have football. In 94, 95, I think it was, we did not have varsity football for 1 year, at Redwood only. And the reason was we got beat 85-3. They let us do a field goal. 85-3 against Novato, and we said after, you know, we took our tails and ran, and we said, we can't let these kids come out and just be beat up every week. And we were still, at that time, one of the bigger schools in the league, although we only had about 1,000 students at that time. And we took that year from the league, and we had a great group of parents who got the giant builder's room, the big weight room in the back, and they developed that. We ran the Frosh Soft team then. We didn't have JVs then. We ran Frosh Soft team that year, and they came back, and the next year, Marin Catholic was out of the league for playoffs, so we didn't, but we won the round robin of the league the next year in varsity. But it wasn't because of numbers, it was because of it was the lack of football culture. Kids weren't coming out. The fans weren't coming out to watch the games. There was no parent support. There was no support for this. So it was 1 year Redwood did not play football, and then they came back and have played ever since.
You know, I mean, looking at this chart, we've got, you know, the Drake varsity, 20 players. So
There's
that,
you really have to say, I think this is a thing that we have to grapple with. Is what is the minimum number that you can have to run a team? Because you can't run players both ways the whole game safely. You know, and I think the trainers can speak to that as well. So what is a minimum number? And maybe we can ask UCSF for some help in determining that, because then if we can't get minimum numbers, then we have to disband the team. Novato almost did last year, and you saw the hullabaloo that was in the press, and finally they scrambled out and got some kids to play, and they had a team. San Rafael this year forfeited a game because of lack of numbers after grade eligibility, and they had injuries and some academic ineligibility, so they had to forfeit at least one game, if not more than one game, but one that I know of. And it's something that we're going to have to think about, as somebody sooner or later is going to have to, the ADs and Chris and the board will have to grapple with.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will say one of the school districts, the San Francisco Unified School District, does have a minimum. It's 17 that they've determined to keep. But yeah, so you understand 17 on a football team, that means that half the kids will be playing both directions for part, if not more. But they have decided as a section and a league that 17 is the minimum the team must field in order to play a game.
Okay, so we're talking suited up and ready to go.
Correct.
Yeah.
Not injured kids on the sideline
Yeah.
with a jersey on. They have to be
Okay.
fully suited up and able to play.
Well, thank you. We look forward to hearing more about this in the fall. I think we're...
And
big question.
One more question, Sue. Is there any way to figure out the unduplicated numbers of kids participating?
What? Yeah, I don't know, because we get numbers for the teams, so
Yeah.
it's hard. I mean, we could say, I think that most kids are just playing single sport. Some kids are playing two sport. Very, very few are playing three sports. And Redwood has or Tam, I don't know if you still do it, the credit card thing. One athlete this year who played 12 seasons of sport. That means they played some sport at some level every season, 4 years. And that's very hard to come by. And that little thing they give them is a free pass to all the athletic events at Redwood for a life. You know, because that's really a commitment to play 12 seasons of sport. So I would say the vast majority are now, and this is something I disagree with, but are becoming more and more single sport athletes and concentrating so they can get that college ride.
Okay. Well, I think do you have any other questions? We're getting behind schedule.
Yeah, just one more. How do we compare in terms of participation to other districts, countywide, statewide?
I have no idea.
Maybe we can get that for
Yeah.
a future.
I think we're what?
I mean, well, Redwood's high because we're You fill the most teams.
Yeah, some schools don't have teams in some sports. So like especially Branson doesn't have teams in many sports because they only have 300 kids. You know, so they can't run the levels and they can't run some actual sports that a school like Redwood could. But in terms of how percentage-wise do we compare to other schools, I don't even know if CIF keeps that data. There is a CIF sports participation form that we have on a district website, on my website and on the Title IX website. That form is filled out by every school in the state. So, you know, you can see total numbers. It gives the school enrollment, how many boys, how many girls, and then it gives how many students are playing, how many athletes are playing each individual sports. So it just says soccer. It doesn't say, it says how many girls are playing soccer, how many boys are playing soccer, and things like that.
Thank you, Sue. Really appreciate it. Thank you. So next we have the instructional coach update.
I like the enthusiasm.
Yeah. Look, they're not getting any plaques.
Hi. How are we doing?
Congratulations. Dr. Stifler.
Oh,
Oh,
geez.
Dr. Stifler.
Oh, geez. Thank you. Now I'm red. Okay. Perfect. All right. So I have my team here. They're awesome, so just wanted to make sure, I know you know who they all are, but the fabulous Sue Fox, representing Drake High School first, Jennifer Dolan, TAM, Steve Hedelman from Redwood. Your arm okay, buddy? Okay. And Paula Berry representing everything TAM district, specifically the alt schools and alt ed. So we are here to give you a brief update on our work to date. As you know, this project started with some educator effectiveness funding that came in unexpectedly 2 years ago, approximately $400,000. And we had a committee that convened to decide how to spend our money using these as parameters. And we landed on instructional coaching, a 2-year model, which was then supplemented with district funds. We convened together to determine our purpose. So our ultimate purpose is to improve learning for all students while narrowing student achievement gaps. We are very explicitly focused on student equity. And these are the things we hoped to accomplish through coaching. So it's not only direct impact on student learning and narrowing of student achievement gaps, but also increasing adult learning and improving instructional practices, implementation of new content standards, and improving school culture. This was in our presentation a couple years ago, so just wanted to re-anchor you. Instructional coaching is something very specific. It's a specific type of teacher leadership. All of the coaches are in confidential relationships with the people that they work with. It's all completely optional and voluntary. It's all very customized and specific to what the client needs. And we're intentional about how we approach this and also intentional in how they receive support. So anyway, it is a very specific model and approach to improvement. This was also in the application, so we're again very clear on what is coaching and what is it not. It is a colleague who offers feedback and support. It's not evaluative. It's very intentional that they are teachers and not administrators, that I have no knowledge of the ins and outs of their conversations with their clients. And so they listen, they build relationships, they provide customized support. It's not mandated. It's not something we're going to do an ineffective teacher. So it's all a very positive, voluntary, confidential, trusting setting, which is what it has to be to get especially veteran teachers to say, hey, I'm kind of struggling with this. How can you help me? We developed the particular structure given the funding that we had, which was again supplemented with some district funds. We had Paula was our 1.0 lead, so she supported San Andreas, Tamascal, the adult school, and then support for all three. And she did a lot of collaboration with these guys on a site level basis, you know, jumping in when one of them couldn't coach at a specific site or doing instructional rounds if someone couldn't. She also did a lot of help supporting the rollout of the NGSS Physics in the Universe course, and then each one of our site-based coaches had a .4 released from their teaching assignments. That was Sue, Jen, and Steve. And then part of this too was really supporting their growth and development as a team. So we met every other Friday in my office for 90 minutes, and a lot of that was our own collective learning. We learned everything from, you know, equity, unpacking race and bias, to high-impact instructional strategies, to how to be effective coaches, to building collective efficacy. And I probably gave them, I don't know, how many books, team? 5, 10, 15, 20? Yeah. Okay, you got 25 or 30. And you liked, okay, a lot of books, a lot of reading. And they did a lot of professional development. So I estimated that each of them participated in approximately 150 hours of professional learning themselves over the past 2 years. And they can speak to that a little bit. This is what we did. On the left would be our services. So we organized it around small one-on-one or small group, and sometimes evolved to large group coaching. Instructional rounds, which are classroom observations for the purposes of the learner. It's not to evaluate or give feedback to someone we're observing, but to learn from what we're seeing and debrief in teams and do some collective readings together. They offered a monthly evening learning cohort on various high-impact topics. Over here, they did workshops, oftentimes in the summer, sometimes during the school day, sometimes for site-based PD. Sometimes they led coffee talks where they were just down on the school site, coffees and bagels, popped down to talk about grading or whatever else was on top. And then, again, specific to Paula, a lot of work with that NGSS curriculum development. These are our estimated numbers of people that were served in each one of these areas over 2 years. And again, these people might have participated in multiple things. So it's not additive, if that makes sense. But I think that's significant touch points. So given what we said we were going to do, we decided to evaluate the model using this criteria. This came to you in May of 2016, so we held to our word, trying to figure out how to best evaluate this. Of course, we always look at our quantitative data, but we were also very interested in some staff perception data. We gave the same exact staff survey 2 years in a row, and so we're able to compare that information. The first survey was in spring of 2017. That's your blue bars. And then the second survey was the same survey in the spring of 2018, recently. And the questions, as you see, range from 1 to very little to 5 very extensively. So to what degree did student learning improve as a result of coaching? And what I like to see here is that we actually, I think, did a really good job on year 1, and we actually did better in our second year, is what I'm seeing here. But you can, you know, interpret yourselves. Here is to what degree did coaching support you to help close the achievement gap? Again, I think we see some definite improvement in this area.
Can I ask you what the y-axis represents?
Percent of responses.
Okay, thanks.
To what degree did you grow as a learner through your work with a coach? Little to a lot. It's a big shift in that 3 to 4 there. What does staff say about classroom instruction? To what degree did your work with a coach help you improve your classroom instruction? So again, these respondents the survey went out to all staff, and you kind of got like, did you receive services? Yes, and that's this. If you didn't receive services, we also asked why and what can we do to, you know, better serve you. So these are ones that did. So again, you kind of see that jump in that 3 to 4 range there. And to what degree did coaching help improve your school and classroom culture? So all in all, I call these pretty positive. Staff response is one of the most positive that we've seen and consistent over the 2 years. We also had some opportunity for some qualitative responses. So, you know, what are your thoughts? I'll let you read those. It's just a sampling, of course. And here, we did do instructional rounds with each teacher leader team at each site too, so that's what the TL is in that. Okay. We also asked them if they would like to see instructional coaching offered at some point in the future, knowing that a grant was coming to a close after 2 years. I found it, this again, extremely positive. And it is of the people who responded to the survey, a resounding yes. And one person said no. Yay, go team. And I want to just kind of pass off, I'll talk after this about the future of coaching. As Tara mentioned, we do have another opportunity to continue this for a year, but I think the bulk of the importance of this presentation should come from my team here. So I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you so much. Coaching has been a fabulous experience for myself. It's allowed me to see how all the different teachers in my entire campus teach. I've been in every classroom. And I'm specifically going to talk a little bit about the cohorts. We've had 10 cohort sessions per year, and they've been thematic. And it's been great. We've done everything from modeling approaches to having discussions where teachers could feel like they were in a safe setting to really talk about issues that they're having in the classroom and look to us for suggestions and supports and strategies and what the research says and read articles and watch videos. And they've been really powerful, and I'm really looking forward to carrying on another year. Thank you so much.
I was going to talk about the one-on-one coaching. It's all voluntary. At Redwood, I was counting some numbers. I think I was fortunate to work with somewhere around 35 of our 105 teachers over the course of 2 years. And the way I like to describe it is kind of in terms of staff development, it's kind of a continuum that sometimes, you know, for staff development, we come to a staff development day where we don't have choice. We don't know what we're going to learn, and people present that to us, and sometimes that's great, and sometimes it's not, depending on whether it's applicable to us. The second thing I like to think about is kind of being a little bit more tailor-made, or kind of workshops that we go to. I'll go to the NCTE workshop every couple of years, and there I get to choose the breakout sessions. And what I like about that is that sometimes I come back having gone to 2 or 3 or 4 breakout sessions over the course of 2 days and really bring back stuff to work in my class, and the other half of them aren't so good. With coaching, the teachers get to say, this is specifically what I want to work on. And so it's personalized staff development, and you know, with kind of adult learning, it's really tailored to what they need in their classroom and its immediate usefulness. So over the course of 2 years with those 35 teachers, I'd say I've worked on things like helping teachers design Socratic seminars, or helping teachers, one of my favorite things to do was teachers who weren't sure about student engagement. So I would sit in their class for 3 days and create a seating chart and listen for every time a student's voice, you know, was heard. And then I'd sit down with the coach and say, well, you know, what'd you think? Well, what percent of the kids did you think spoke over the course of those few days? And sometimes perception was off, and the data never lied. Sometimes I would work on questioning techniques. So same thing, I would sit in class for 2 days and just keep a running list of all the different types of questions and then catalog them based on something like Bloom's taxonomy, and have teachers look at that and think about what that means in terms of the critical thinking skills that they were asking students for. So it's really dependent on the teachers and what they're looking to improve on. Engagement, feedback, unit design. Really looking forward to continuing. I appreciate everything that you guys are doing to support it. So thanks.
You said based on Bloom's taxonomy? What is that? I'm not clear.
It's kind of Bloom's taxonomy is, well, it's actually been kind of, I think, changed from what it was originally intended to be, but it's kind of like a pyramid of critical thinking questions, from basic kind of like comprehension all the way up to you know, more critical thinking questions.
Thank you.
You can look it up on Wikipedia.
I have both teachers on each side of me looking at me. They're looking at me like, are you nuts? You don't know what that is?
I don't know what it
The
is
first
either.
thing we all learned in our teacher training. It was
Okay.
years ago.
Okay, I'll look at Wikipedia.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us here. I'm Paula, and I'm going to briefly talk about one component of our coaching work that all four of us have had an opportunity to do, and that has been to lead instructional rounds. And it's one thing that I, coming into this role, never really thought about was the opportunity to observe my colleagues. And as a teacher in a classroom setting for many, many years, I don't know that I can remember one time I ever observed someone else and really sat in a classroom to learn from them. So what we've been doing is based on choice, if teachers want to participate, we have been offering instructional rounds at the comprehensive sites. We have had a few participants from the alt schools that have gone to comprehensive sites to participate. But what rounds are based on medical rounds from medical school. And the idea is that we gather together as a group, most often with a common focus of where we want to improve in our instruction. The coaches typically bring in a research-based article that we read about that particular high-impact practice, or maybe we're focusing on equity, or maybe it's on culturally responsive teaching. And as a team, we read through and we discuss our findings from the article, and then we come up with what's called a problem of practice. And that basically sets the tone for what we're going to observe in the classroom. We write this together, and then we engage in 3 or 4 classroom observations for about 15 minutes, and we focus on what we call the instructional core. It's not about the teacher per se, but it's about really what evidence can we gather that aligns with our problem of practice. Once we do our observations, we come back and we debrief based on the evidence we've gathered, and then as a team, each participant comes up with a goal of what they want to do based on their experience in rounds in their own classroom. And so we've had quite a few teachers participating. All of the teacher leaders at the sites have engaged in rounds, and then we've been running them during common prep time. So we'll gather teachers together with common prep periods, and then we observe teachers that have been gracious to open their classroom to us. And it's been absolutely, for me, one of the most incredible experiences to just open your eyes to other people, to see the fabulous teachers that we have, to see where we can improve and move forward in our practice. So I just want to share that with you, and it's been wonderful at all the sites seeing just what people are doing. So it's been a great learning opportunity.
I asked to go last because now everything's been said, so I just want to reiterate, all of those things are true, and the opportunity, teachers feel so respected when they are able to focus on a challenge that they have identified themselves as being a challenge for teaching. And so over the last couple years, I've been able to facilitate a whole staff discussion at TAM around how do you know if you're grading fairly? And really, you know, this is a sticky topic for a lot of people. We had people in groups, and we had a questionnaire with statements, and people were responding real time with their phones, and we were seeing live results, and it was, of course, it was anonymous. But do you feel like your grades are an accurate reflection of what students are learning? And you'll see, I don't remember what the numbers were, but you know, I can't always say yes to that, you know. And then we had like 20 questions up there, everything from late work, you know, well, whatever. And then at the end, and then after going through the questionnaire, we all sat at tables and were able to really talk and start discussing grading around equity. And we've talked about, you know, getting teachers together to talk about how do you give feedback on how can you set it up so you can give feedback to students on a daily basis without bringing 1,000 papers home every night? How can you set up your classroom so that somebody cannot physically opt out of higher level thinking? And every single time I'm with a group of teachers or one-on-one, or you know, in larger groups, it's just energizing. People, they make connections, they make colleagues, and they connect with their colleagues, and then there's this natural desire to follow up and get into somebody's classroom and keep talking. So it's been fabulous. And since I have the microphone, I also just want to say, Dr. Kim Stifler is amazing. Oh, no. I mean, seriously, she has pushed us for 2 years. She pushed us pretty hard, I think. I'll push you. I know. So anyway, she's done a great job, and we're also very grateful for you, Kim. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sue had to run. She's also has a C-Disc fundraiser right now at Drake, so she's dually booked. But I just can't, I don't know, say enough about my team here. It's been an amazing journey, and we were all very sad to see it go, knowing that the grant was ending and that we're in the financial situation that we are. And then lo and behold, the parent foundations came forward and reached out to Tara and asked if they could continue to help us to fund this in a particular way. And of course, we were jumping up in the air, saying yes. Let's see how this can work. Is everyone in support? Is everyone on board? And after multiple conversations, turns out, yes, it is going to be in a reduced capacity due to the funding available. So each one of their assignments will be reduced down a 0.2. So this will put us at a 0.8 for Paula's job and a 0.2 at the other schools. So we're gonna get creative. But the good news is we're gonna keep the existing team for one more year. They've been so trained up. There's just no way to continue this, especially at a reduced role at this point, to be able to onboard a new team. Although at some point, if we are able to continue this in the future, we all want to see this opportunity available to other staff members. So we're going to take it 1 year at a time, and I can't tell you how much I've learned from being able to work with this team. So we all thank you very much for continuing to support our work, and I'll let you open it up to any questions.
Go ahead, you go first.
Well, I have a few. Maybe I should list them if I can be intelligent about it. One of my questions is how many senior teachers? You may have commented about that, and I'm particularly interested in their response because, as you well know, at times those of us who are seniors carry a lot of baggage with us. So that's one question. The second one, perhaps relative to the next one that I'm going to ask, but I would like to know your feedback about literacy. I know that we don't even use that word anymore, and that concerns me. I would like to know your takes, because I know you all, and I know you're so credible and professional. What are your takes about the way we used to talk about literacy, reading and writing? Can you comment on that? I would like to get some information about what you are seeing in terms of the changes. Your clients are changing from to what? If you can comment on that. And then the issue of grading, which I know, Steve, you led a workshop on that. And then I know Drake has surveyed their staff about their grading practices. And I think grading seems to kind of toggle between newer teachers who might be asking about effort and those who may have more experience who then the kids are talking about, or about comprehension and mastery. So how is that coming together? So I don't know if there's anything or is credible or even.
I'll comment on that, veteran versus. I think what I've noticed is that we've worked with a variety of teachers, and it's not about where they are in their tenure in a sense, but it's whether or not they are open to improving in their practice. And we have people that have worked, I think, longer than us in the classroom, 25, 30 years. We have people that are in year 2 and 3. It's kind of all over the place. There's been comments in some of the feedback that, oh, I'm a veteran teacher, I don't need this. Yet we have many veteran teachers that seem to be, I think, the bulk of our work.
Especially on instructional rounds.
Yes, yes. So there's a variety, but I think it's more about the person as opposed to where they are in their practice terms. Yeah.
So I don't know. Literacy.
Literacy.
Yeah. Sorry. On to you.
I'm not sure we did any specific work on literacy.
Yeah, I can see that.
But most of the kids are literate. From what we see, I'm trying to think of the people who asked for one-on-one work with us, and most of it was related to things like feedback and student engagement and cultural sensitivity, cultural inclusion, things like that. It wasn't a little bit of stuff with some of our EL students and practices that that they can use to help them in mainstream classes. This year at Redwood, and I think at the other schools, we clustered our EL students together so that they had that there were fewer teachers kind of reaching out to the rest of the population, and that seemed to have a really huge impact on their success in terms of growth. I know that I think somebody presented about the EL data. It was the improvement there this year was outstanding. I know at Redwood through Devin McCrae and the cluster that she had created. In terms of grading, we're all over the place. I mean, I'm probably like the Bernie Sanders of grading. I want to kind of, I'd like to get rid of it. I don't see a purpose for it. The purpose of what we need to give kids is lots of feedback, and letter grades and numbers don't give feedback. So we've had discussions with like the UC system about moving away from letters and numbers. We did some research into a coalition of schools in New England who are accepting transcripts that are competency-based. You might have read about the Mastery Transcript Consortium that we tried to get into, but they weren't ready for public schools to join them yet. So, so the movement kind of nationally is out there, I think, to move away from this stuff. We're still a ways away, but what happens with grades is you're measuring something, and then inevitably what we do is instead of taking that basic measurement and that basic information and giving it to kids and saying, you know, this is the next step to get somewhere else, we translate it 6 steps down the road. So that becomes some number that really has no really meaningful impact for kids. So that's kind of what we found, and or that's what I found.
I just would add, Barbara, a lot of the, I would say that literacy is a huge fundamental piece when we talk about closing the opportunity gap. As we talk about heterogeneous classrooms, one of the things that like the next generation history, social studies standards that I'm part of that team, and has been a big part of my coaching at TAM. It's all about how do you take somebody, how do you make advanced historical documents accessible to everyone? So there is really this idea of like not letting people opt out of learning. Literacy does play a huge piece of that. So a lot of my coaching conversations are around shortening texts, building vocabulary and that kind of thing. So I would say it's definitely in the equity conversation, it's a key pillar. Yeah. What did we leave out? Thank you. Anything? Got it. All right.
So go ahead.
Yeah, I just I have a question. You talked about participation of teachers based upon levels of experience. So I want to ask that same question, though, but broken down by departments. Do you see patterns of certain, teachers in certain departments, participating more in this than other departments, and if so, why?
I haven't. I was looking through it today. I can think of 2 teachers in applied technology, 5 teachers, 6 teachers in English, 5 or 6 in history. Science. There was no one single department that was more represented than anyone else, or at least nothing kind of really outside of what's normal. The trick for us next year, because it's voluntary and because teachers are so busy, the trick is to onboard people and to get people to use us. That's been the challenge, I would say, for the last 2 years. We used a model of a woman, Elena Aguilar, and who kind of literally wrote the book on coaching. And her model is 50 hours with somebody. And that didn't happen with us. People just don't have the time. I think her model is also based not necessarily on having people volunteer for it, but people are kind of assigned to work with a coach, people who are maybe in a little bit of danger of losing their jobs. So for us, our process is a little bit more in line with a guy named Jim McKnight, who we saw speak through the Corwin presentations, which is kind of teachers come with us with a problem of practice. we asked them to describe that problem. We asked them to kind of talk about, what would it look like if you solved this, and kind of come up with a number. So I worked with a math teacher, and she said, my goal for this semester is I want all of my students to demonstrate proficiency or above, which is I think 80% or above. I said, well, okay, how many are there right now? And she was at 60%. And I said, okay, well, where would you be happy to be at the end of second marking period? She said, 80%. I said, okay, and so then that process began. Well, let's identify the students who are below, and let's talk about each of those students. So teachers are busy, so it doesn't, we don't always have one-on-one coaching clients. We're constantly asking people to sign up with us. So that's something for us to work on next year, too.
Go ahead. And I just wanted to say also that it was very intentionally designed to be instructionally based so that it could transcend content area, and the instructional practices, according to the research basis, have a much higher impact on learning than just the content, although content obviously is a vehicle for learning. So the fact that they can, they happen to all be from the humanities and science, but that they can coach any teacher of any department just because they're well-versed in instructional strategies is, I think, a perk to this particular model as well.
I have a question. It's about participation rates across the sites. Steve, you mentioned it's about 33%, about a third, 35 out of 105.
Of the one-on-one services that we offer, but when you add in things like the people who come to the cohorts after school and people who engage in instructional rounds and people who come to some of the workshops, it's probably closer to 40, 45%.
That's great. And is that similar at the other sites and at the alternative sites?
I think, yeah, my numbers, slightly fewer one-on-one. I think I had a few more I did more with instructional, or I had more people signing up for instructional rounds. Oh, I'm sorry. I just like to stand in the back of the room and yell. So very similar. A few less in one-on-one, maybe a few more in instructional rounds. And
I've kind of been all over Drake, working with like a large team of 12, facilitating ongoing meetings with them. And then Sue's been doing a lot of one-on-one. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head there. With the alt schools, with San Andreas, we had high participation in our learning cohort, but not very little one-on-one, a little bit with a couple new teachers. And then Tamalpais, maybe out of, I don't know how many people are there, probably 3 that I've worked with. So. Yeah, and then we've been offering also support for adult. I've been doing adult ed and classified support for technology. So I've been leading some workshops for the Google Suite. So that's been a large group of participants as well. We offered a PD day, for classified. So just trying to support as many people. We also have had. Not sure off the top of my head, but some paraeducators have been part of the learning cohort, which has been awesome, bringing another aspect to our group for collaboration. So I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but lots of different participants in different capacities at the site. So it varies for sure from site to site.
Sounds like it's pretty, you've had a receptive audience.
Yes, and we're always, the time piece is the hard part because most of our work happens during their prep period. So they have to be willing to make their learning a priority as opposed to the 15 other things that are a priority as teachers. So, but when we get them, I think we hook them. That's the great part.
Well, remind me of what you 3 had to do to become coaches. Sue's not here, but I know that we were told this as a board when we first we got this grant, and I'm feeling very grateful that we got the coaches that we have, and you're willing to stay on for another year. And can you remind us, like, how we selected this team?
Yeah, so I mean, I think first of all, it started with the fact that a team of our staff members actually decided to land on a model for instructional coaching, right, to begin with. So it was already something that we thought that we might want or need. And we'd done some interest level surveys with the staff as well, so that was great. Then in terms of interviewing them, there was the 1.0 position and the 0.2 at each one of the comprehensives, and we had teams at each one of the school sites with representation from each one of the departments. So in the Redwood one, right? It was and they were all teacher nominated. We made it very intentional that the teachers were going to be the ones to choose their coach because it wasn't going to work any other way. Actually, I was the only administrator sitting in all of the interview panels, and I facilitated it. I didn't give any input in any way. So it was very much a grassroots teacher selected from the school site, from even the people who were on the panel. I just said, nominate a person from the science department at Redwood. You know, let me know who the English department person. They had union representation, obviously, and then again, I just helped them come to a consensus decision. We had a process in place if they didn't, but they all did. So, and I think that really has helped us in this process that they were all definitely chosen by their peers to be in these roles from people who wanted to learn from them.
And then I just had one comment. I was reading the comments from the survey, and I especially liked the segment that said that that person felt we were a more connected campus community because of instructional coaching. And for me as a board member, that is huge. We're constantly working on improving our culture and climate. And if this sort of effort is helping make everyone feel like this is a great place to work and have a growth mindset, you know, I just applaud all of your efforts, and I'm so glad we can do it another year. So thank you.
Thank you.
Chuck, do you have any questions? No? Student trustees?
Oh, I have one question. Do you guys instruct, like, on what teachers should do when students are, like, disobedient? For example, this year, in regards to, like, all of the teachers who are having, like, students sexually harass them, like, do you guys instruct on, like, what the best course of action for the teachers should do would be?
That has not come to us, although we are all trained in terms of the sexual harassment piece you mentioned. So there's a series of protocols that we're supposed to follow if that happens, that through the district, that we're trained. And most of the work that, again, we're doing is teachers that have chosen to work with us, and oftentimes the situations you're coming up, those people haven't chosen to be our clients. I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. This was very inspiring. This isn't an action item, so we don't technically have public comment, but if you'd like to make a public comment, you can. Tonight, will you? Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt. If you're technically but what I want to do, yeah, no, what I'd really like to do is to make sure that somebody can follow up with you, because you do have some, you know, you're a parent, we want to hear from you, but this is where it gets gray. This is it's a little confusing. It's really a board meeting that's in public, and so we don't have communication with the public and the speaker. But we want to hear you, so I'm just going to ask Kim, can you follow up and get ideas and make sure that you get your questions answered? That'd be great. Thank you. So you'll connect with her.
Yes.
Great, thank you. But thank you again very much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So now we have Chuck Ford as a follow-up from something that came to us at the last meeting. You want to do the climate change resolution?
I met with Cyrus Thelen, one of the students who brought the request to us. We took the three other
resolutions.
Three other resolutions that were the samples. Took some of that. Cyrus added a bunch of stuff, added in most of the action steps. But David Kundhart had, collared me at the break, and he has some very small suggestions that we could add into the thing. But I give credit to Cyrus for almost all of the action stuff.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, one moment. So, I just want to make sure, does every board member have this resolution in front of you? So also make sure that we all have it, and I see it now on the screen. And we could open it up to public comment and then loop back together, and that way, I'm sorry, I'm looking up your name. I think you gave us a yellow card. Maybe not. Are you Mr. Kuhnhart? Yes. Oh, you are. Okay, thank you. So if you'd like to come and give public comment, and then we'll take note of that and then go back to the board and the student trustees.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. There, David Kuhnhart from Corte Madera. There are three of us here who are from the Schools for Climate Action, and which is kind of a subgroup of Citizens Climate Lobby. There were really two things very quickly. One is that I want to update some good news that I provided a month ago when we talked about this, and the second is a very, very specific adjustment. On the top of the second page, the second bullet point on the top of the second page, if that could be dialed up, it says, right now, it says explore switching to Marin clean energy for electricity. Just scroll, please. And right there, right in the middle, it says explore switching to Marin clean energy for electricity. Technically, Marin clean energy, because it's grown so much, is now MCE, period. And they are responsible for the generation portion only of an electric bill. And because there are so many other jurisdictions of political jurisdictions within the county, including the county itself, that have now switched to 100% renewable deep green meters, I would urge you to change that line to simply say explore switching to MCE 100% deep green for electricity generation. Explore switching to MCE 100% deep green for electricity generation. And that would be a really terrific commitment on your part. MMWD has just done this for their invoices. All 11 cities and towns plus the county itself have done this in the last year, and it's happening across the region. Now, the second, and by the way, this is a great resolution compared to the dozen others that have been passed in the county and in Sonoma and so forth. This is a great one, excellently written. The good news that I gave last time was that there were 74 members of Congress and the House of Representatives who are part of the Climate Solutions Caucus. Well, that's not true any longer because one resigned and 5 new members have come in. So there are now 78 members of the U.S. House of Representatives Climate Solutions Caucus, 39 Republicans, 39 Democrats. The news is getting even better. And this will be brought to them, I promise you, on the 12th and 13th of June, if it should pass here. Thank you very much for your time.
Any other public comment before we bring it back to the board table? Oh, you want to frame it? Yeah. Oh, so sad to see you go. Stop, I'm gonna cry. So I'd like to open it up for discussion with the board members. I suppose that one edit, we could make it an edit to the resolution for approval, but are there any other lines that anyone would like to make a comment on? And I'll just open it up. Whoever wants to go first, it's fine.
I have a question about the initiatives that are listed on the resolution, accountability for those. Will that be, how many bullet points are there? 6?
Yes.
So who will be responsible for making sure that we undertake those initiatives? Is that something that we as a board?
I'm having trouble hearing.
I'm just looking at Chuck, I'm looking at the be it further resolved, the 6 bullet points.
6 bullet point, prioritize energy efficiency.
The accountability for that, who's in charge of those 6 bullet points?
Survey classrooms. Who's taking that on?
Isn't that
I don't
facilities?
know.
Isn't that where it's coming from?
I know where it comes from. The students observe that teachers leave lights on, they have refrigerators in their classrooms, and they have microwaves in the classroom, and I think we would expect the student energy police
Okay.
to be nagging them.
Okay. I just was wondering if we as a board should follow up on that, or if this is going to fall in somebody's lap to work on those initiatives. So we don't have to answer that question tonight.
I think very likely it's going to be a shared responsibility. I think that we as a district.
Can you step to the podium, please?
I think it's very likely going to be a shared responsibility among, affected departments. I think that we'll have to communicate to school sites as to proper energy practices. I made the comment just this evening to Laura Anderson walking into the meeting. I just noticed I dutifully recycle every day, and I noticed my recycling in the garbage can. So we have a lot of work to do, but I think it's going to be a shared responsibility.
Okay.
And I think that the real challenge is the third one, the coordinate with existing programs doing, no, wait a minute. No, it isn't that one. Number two. Yeah, again, number 2. That my experience is that students, teachers, staff tend to throw stuff in whatever. In my experience at Tamascal, you look at the paper recycling, and there's everything in it. You look at the glass and aluminum recycling, and there's everything in it. You look in the garbage, and there's glass, aluminum, and paper in it. So I think there's a lot of education that needs to go on.
And I'm working off the cuff here, but I think it would behoove us to take should this resolution be passed, I think we look at this at the cabinet level and we determine who's responsible for what area, and then we make sure we meet with our director of maintenance operations, our school site principals, and so forth, and just make sure everybody has a clear understanding that it's a joint effort, shared responsibility, and we'll take this, you take that, and we put something, we memorialize that in some kind of memorandum of understanding.
Sounds good. Thank you. I thought this was a great process, Chuck. Thank you for working with the student and getting this resolution drafted. Looks good.
I have a question. And I have the same kind of question that came up when I was thinking about the resolution about guns, which is there's some pretty technical information in here that we're signing on to. And I mean, I'm fully committed to sort of climate change issues, right? But I'll just speak for myself. I don't have the knowledge, right? The knowledge base to be able to verify some of these things. And, there were some components of that. There were some technical sort of references to different kinds of guns and ammunition and so forth in the other resolution that I felt that was sort of similar. So for example, in the second whereas, it talks about human activities being the dominant cause in climate change. Now, I'm fairly well read, and I have no doubt that, based on my reading, that human activities are a significant cause, but whether they're the dominant cause, I mean, I just don't know. For example, I don't know whether I can say that, or whether we've had sort of discussion that would allow us as a board to say that. And then there's another whereas where it talks about the carbon pricing policies could substantially reduce or eliminate. I mean, we haven't had any discussion about carbon pricing policies. I mean, I anecdotally, I know a little bit about that, but you see what I mean? And so I guess when there are these fairly technical issues where we're making these sort of very strong declarative statements, I'm just a little uncomfortable with it, and wondering if we could, modify it to sort of where we're saying what we think needs to be said in an effective manner, but without kind of getting out somewhere on a ledge where we might not be able to indicate that, yes, we do have sufficient knowledge to be able to say that in a declarative way.
I had the same concern about the enactment of carbon pricing. I had that highlighted for the same reasons. And the other one you mentioned, and this would probably be good to get your feedback. The way I came around was when it says there is a broad scientific consensus among climate scientists that human activities. That is my understanding, so I was more comfortable with that one, because we're not declaring that, but it is my understanding that there is a broad scientific consensus.
Well, but I would agree to that if we would say, again, I'm just talking about my knowledge base. If it said, instead of saying the dominant cause, we could say
we could say significant cause.
Yeah, significant cause or a major cause. You see what right? Because this very well could be right, but I think it's not like it's not like we've had a lot of testimony, right? Right, and
okay, there's Dave.
And something we're not going to know. I don't want to ask for citations because it kind of talks about, are we going to have committee hearings and all this kind of stuff, and this is not our area of expertise.
Right. When we're
right?
just.
So anyway, I think a significant cause.
Okay, so
makes sense to me. Carbon pricing, I haven't really thought about how we might. I have a basic understanding of this. We could say something like carbon pricing policies. I believe carbon pricing policies there are certainly being used in certain places, right? So maybe that's what we can say, are being used to help reduce or eliminate blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to write this down. So
I mean, could is in there.
Yeah,
in that
it says
statement.
could. It doesn't say
it
will substantially.
Yeah, it says could.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, that's true. I missed that one too.
It's not.
So I would actually go back even to the rising sea levels will flood our fields and impede access to our schools.
Say could.
I would say could.
Be consistent.
Which bullet is that one as I write
1,
these?
2, 3, 4.
Okay.
And then I have one more question that I'm a little hesitant to bring up, but we're going to be directing in these 6 bullet points. We're going to be directing staff to take various steps, right? So there's nothing in here that talks about kind of the cost of this, and and I'm just wondering whether that if we're going to be directing staff to do these things, we should also be directing staff to report on the costs associated with it. I mean, budget issues are so big for us now, and I'm wondering whether we should say something about that, in the resolution.
The costs and the savings. A lot of these are going to be savings.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. The way I tried to look at this was that we don't have a timeline. We don't have, say, do this by this year, next year, and I look at it more that we're setting the direction that we want you to do this, to be more consistent, and that could take form in multiple ways on different campuses. It may not take place for 6 months, but it just now it's not one of our it's not part of our mission statement. It's not one of our 4 goals, but it's something else that we're asking the district to have on the forefront when we do put together programs and go out for construction, that we do value these things.
Mhm.
That's how I'm trying to interpret it, that we're not directing them that this year you're going to solve all this.
I wonder if we could have a report back at when cabinet comes together and decides who does which bullet point. It can be a year from now or whatever, but we get some cost benefit analysis. We can touch back on this resolution and see how we're doing and who's doing what and if it's effective.
I have a question now based on the next, I think it's the next item regarding the energy consultant. Is there some relationship between what we're asking, these initiatives, and that work, would you say?
Potentially. I know that in conversations with Tim Holmes of Kenwood Energy, we've actually talked about, leaving PG&E and moving into the other supplier of energy. But those are preliminary conversations. So there's pros and cons of that. I will confess I have not read this resolution carefully, and I have a little knot in my stomach now that there could be some additional responsibilities associated with. Obviously, when the board signs on to something, we need to make sure that we're actually doing the work. So potentially. We all want to be, we're a school. We need to be in the forefront of global citizenry, so we'll do our very best. But unlike Michael, I don't know anything about carbon pricing policy, so I need to do a little research myself.
The last bullet you can put in your request for bids. It can be part of what you ask your contractor to do. There's lots of places here that you can build upon, and then coordinate existing programs to encourage carpooling. Well, Tam High, the city of Mill Valley is trying to get Tam High to do that for other reasons. So I just think a lot of these things, if we look at it a little more.
I think it's very appropriate as we look at construction projects and modernization projects and so forth, to make sure that everybody understands these are a set of values that the board holds dear and is serious about. I think that's very important. At the same time, we're in a competitive bidding environment, so unless we want to start literally writing some of these things into scope of work and so forth.
If we change it to, be it further resolved that the Tamalpais Union High School District will strive to undertake, where's that? We will strive to undertake the following initiatives. And then it shows it's a little, and then it's showing that we really do want to do it, but we're not committing public funds quite yet. We're still figuring out. We don't know what the scope is necessarily. I don't know. It's like this is the direction we'd like to take. You'll come back if there's an extra project, and we'd either approve or disapprove if it's costly. This is just saying this is what we want you to go out and be thinking about and look at. And
should the board pass this resolution, we'll endeavor to make sure that we keep our word. That's a long list of promises there. We'll do our very best to ensure that we keep our word on behalf of the board.
that's not, I see, that's exactly what I'm trying to get away from. Yeah.
Strive to undertake, I'm just
adding the word strive in there.
Strive to undertake.
Yeah. It doesn't sound quite
group
right.
edit is tough, doing a group edit.
Well, let's talk, maybe we come back to that? Can we talk about what the changes that do we have consensus on a few of the changes that were?
Yeah, I've been highlighting them here.
Right. So you had for the second, whereas, you had, instead of saying are the dominant, are a significant
correct
cause, right? And in the fourth one, instead of will flood our fields and impede access, would be could.
Correct. Got
All
that.
We had a change on the fourth bullet under be it further resolved.
Jen, can you scroll down a little bit, please?
Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Keep going.
The one about Marin Clean Energy.
Oh, right.
And I didn't start writing it down until later.
I wrote it down.
Explore switching to MCE for deep
Explore
green.
switching to MCE 100% deep green for electricity generation. Is that right? Okay, got it.
So we're really only stuck on the language at the beginning of be it further resolved.
So we could change, I don't know, maybe, I don't want to dilute this too much. So Chuck, what do you think? I mean, we could replace the word undertake with explore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But is that, but it does leave it a little.
Oh, it does sound more, yeah.
Well, it leaves kind of some wiggle room, but you're the one who's been working on this and talking with the students.
You know, we've got explore down here already.
Consider?
Switching to Marin Clean Energy. Yeah, I think the important thing is to get a statement out of concern and, some commitment to do something.
How about prioritize? Is that too strong instead of undertake?
I think that's arguably stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like we're prioritizing.
But if we wrote explore as opposed to undertake, then the first word in each of the bullet points should be, we should make it a gerund, ing. So it would say explore surveying classroom energy use, instituting, coordinating, switching, increasing, prioritizing.
Okay.
Did I use that right? Are those gerunds?
You're very literate.
That sounds good.
And it does allow us a chance to, in a year or so, get a report on what have we done so far? Is there, what's impeding us, I think we can do that without a whole lot.
Any other, I think that's good. Thank you, Michael. Any other? I was going to ask you what that is later, but tell the English people up here. Do we feel like we need to go through it one more time, or can we make a motion? I think I've got all this down.
I move that we adopt the resolution, or maybe when I have Chuck do it, since Chuck's did the heavy lifting.
Surveying, instituting, coordinating, switching, increasing, prioritizing, and then the two others. Well,
Yeah, we've got it.
In number 2 and number
1, 2, 3,
whatever it
4.
was.
Jennifer, you following all this?
Yeah, number 2
And I
and
have
number
it too,
4.
Jennifer, I can help you. Yeah, right. And then we have the
Number 2, number 4, and then the little changes.
right, and then the
Okay,
explore switching to, and I wrote that out already.
All
So,
right.
okay. Do we have a second? That was clear.
Second.
Glad. It's going to be
Just
9 o'clock. You can tell. It's like,
Getting ready to
oh.
write that report.
So we have a second. All those in favor? Oh, it's a resolution. Is it? Yes. So it's a roll call.
Ms. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Futterman?
Aye.
Ms. Lundgren Harlander?
Aye. Terrific. That passed. And Jennifer, we can work together tomorrow to get it incorporated, and we'll check it, cross-check it. But I think we got it. Good. Thank you. Okay. Now we have the Kenwood Energy.
Yes. First, before we leave that, I'm very proud to work for a school district that is willing to say that this matters, and we're going to do our best to be a good global citizen. I think that's really terrific. Thank you. As you recall, the days and months all run together, but a few board meetings ago, we commissioned Kenwood Energy to to conduct an energy audit specific to our encumbered Prop 39 funds. And Tim Holmes of Kenwood Energy did just that, and made a report to the board about his suggestions, his firm suggestions for the most, you know, I don't want to be cavalier, but how do we get the most bang for our buck in terms of our limited Prop 39 funds and how we should best spend them. And he broke down, you know, in his firm's mind, how we can use that money in the most efficient way. In the course of the conversation, the board, who had prior experience with working with Mr. Holmes during the Redwood Solar Array project, asked that he come back with another proposal that would assist us now in actually developing very specific projects for those Prop 39 funds, and per a conversation we've had well over a year ago, how perhaps we can start to attack some of the recommendations in the facilities master plan specific to energy efficiency. So Mr. Holmes has put together a proposal with a very limited dollar figure where he would assist myself, David O'Connor, and others in our district in identifying energy projects, identifying, most importantly, ways that they would not impact the general fund in any way, shape, or form, looking at turnkey projects that would assist us in both modernizing our facilities and, again, prioritizing the notion of energy efficiency in our institution. So we respectfully request that you support this proposal, and we will go to work with Kenwood Energy in lining up some energy efficient projects.
Any questions from the board?
I would move that we approve the Kenwood Energy consultant proposal to develop a turnkey project.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I think you're still up.
I've got one more. Yes. As you know, we are in I was going to say the throes of, but actually it's an exciting project. It's not something that we feel is onerous, but it's a very complex project. Our little interim housing year. We're getting to the end of the school year, so we're getting ready to go to work on placing some portables and restroom facilities on the Redwood High School campus. We ask that the board adopt a resolution that allows us to be exempt under the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, as it's most commonly known. You have the resolution in front of you, and then you have the notice of exemption attached to it. So we believe what this does, in essence, is allows us to continue with our project and without having to develop an environmental impact report. We feel we're on solid ground, asking you to pass a resolution that would allow us to not do that. And it's based on student enrollment, the new construction, so on and so forth. We will have less than 10 classroom buildings that'll go up, and as you know, and again, we don't need to do an environmental impact study because of the scope of work and the size of the project.
Lars, I have a question in reading this pretty complex stuff. I'm assuming that our attorney...
Yes, very much so, yeah. What you, as you know, this is boilerplate, but we have then tuned it up specific to our project here on the Redwood High School campus.
So the question that I have is, both documents refer to the phase one of the construction, which is what we've already done.
What we've already done.
Right. So I guess what I'm curious about is, did we do this before the completion of phase one? And if not, why not?
We call it phase one and phase two, but it's really one project. So we separate it out for ourselves.
Should I not ask that question?
Do you remember the cranky board member about a year ago?
Yes.
Do you remember me?
Yes.
So
vaguely. She sat in a different chair, but
This was the subject. So it was phase one. So we're good to go now.
Okay.
We're good. I was just going to ask that cranky board member how she felt about this, because if you're good, then
I waited a
think
year. It's very good to see it. Thank you.
Sometimes you have to back up to get a running start.
You're getting even redder, Lars.
It's the glare of my office lights that caused all this sunburn. But anyway, we respectfully request that the board pass this resolution. It has been vetted thoroughly by our attorneys, and we're getting excited to get some work done here in just a few short weeks.
Great. Any other comments? Any public comments? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move that we pass resolution number 17-24, determining that the Redwood High School interim housing project is categorically exempt from CEQA and authorizing staff to file a notice of exemption for the project.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And it's another roll call vote.
Ms. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Fetterman?
Aye.
Ms. London-Carpenter?
Aye. Great, that passed. Thank you, Lars.
Well, and real quick, because I'm looking right at it, we have phase 3 listed up there in this resolution and the notice of exemption. That does not obligate us to do a phase 3, but it is there in case we need to.
it's nice
so
to have.
so that's why that's there. That was purposely done.
Good, thank you. So now we have the third reading of revised BPAR 3100. Dr. Yoshihara.
Thank you, members of the board. I'm also open to entertaining tabling this, but I'll quickly go over the reason this is up for a third reading. And it had to do in response to the reserve conversation and the language around that. And it's fairly significant and it has some burden on it. So the board may want more time to talk about this. We spent a lot of time with regards to the budget. Trustee Futterman talked about this. So within the reserve balance, just so you know this, if you want to table it, you can think about it. But what it basically states is, and I'll read it out here because it's significant, and it was the language that was suggested and change that's made that's different than CSBA and specific to us. The district shall include a minimum reserve balance for economic uncertainties that is consistent with the percentage or amount specified in California Code of Regulation. That's the 3% everybody's familiar with. The language that was added: to protect the district from unforeseen circumstances such as revenue shortfalls and unanticipated expenditures, the board will maintain unassigned fund balance reserve that exceeds the requirements of this California Code of Regulations. This minimum will equal 17% of expenditures and is inclusive of the reserve for economic uncertainties. This amount will remain as unrestricted and uncommitted and equates to approximately 2 months of operating expenses. This is based upon the guidelines established by the GFOA. Okay, so here's the reserve balance conversation that the board has talked about extensively, but now as part of policy will require us when budgeting to be very clear about that amount of money and going below that. And then I give the reasons for when we can go below that. Okay, so the appropriate reserve uses. Circumstances may arise that justify reducing reserves below this minimum level. These circumstances would be appropriate in order to respond to the risks that reserves are intended to mitigate against, such as, and I give 2 examples that I could come up with. First one is one-time use of meeting cash flow. Basically, essentially at the end of the day, cash needs to flow. We got to be able to make payroll. We got to be able to make payments to vendors. And so the ability to make sure cash flows, particularly in those low months around November and March before the property tax rolls in. So we get that. Second one is actually the one that's more significant. When a multi-year forecast shows an ongoing structural gap or deficit, I use gap here, in providing a strategic bridge to the future, an imbalance in the budget would cause the reserves of the unrestricted general fund to fall below 10% of recurring, I'm trying to read all the red line, 10% of recurring annual operating expenses must be approved by the Board of Trustees and a plan to regain this reserve level. So essentially what it's saying is if we dip below 10%, we must have board approval and a plan to go back above 17%. So again, the idea was, in my mind, what amount becomes too low? In other words, if we're going to have something in policy that says we have to have 17% reserve and we're allowing for avenues to go below that, when do we need to create a trigger to come back before the board that says, you know, we're too low, we need the board to acknowledge that, or not, and then adjust? So this is pretty heavy language. I've talked this over with Terry. She's clear in terms of actualizing it. but it will have real impact. Because if we dip below 10%, we're going to have to come to the board and say we're below 10. We cannot do that without your action, or we got to go back and adjust the budget to meet that need. So I'm happy to defer this. It's, I don't think it's going to, it's not that we can't do the budget work for June. It's not that we can't do those things, but it's heavy and it's significant, and it was good. Mr. Futterman brought it last time. If we're going to talk about 17% reserve, we're going to have a policy that talks about it. I don't see it in here. So now you see it in here. So.
Yeah. So David, I actually think this is good. I mean, this is right. This is the kind of the third
that's why
time sort of struggling with it, but it's much better than the first draft, which came from CSBA, which wasn't appropriate for a community-funded district like ours, and I think it's frankly consistent with what the board, the direction and the consensus of the board, the direction that the board has given in our various budget workshops, and specifically with respect to the workshop when we talked about reserve levels and so forth, and.
Yeah, that was the spirit.
And so I think this works. And frankly, if the plans are, if the budget is indicating that we're dipping below 10%, then, right, staff better come to the board and saying, this is what's going on, and we need you to approve it, because, right, I mean, that's pretty significant. So I like this. I don't see any reason to postpone it anymore, but Mike, you guys may have different.
Yeah, I didn't want to rush it.
No, I don't think it's rushing it. I think you're addressing the concerns that have been raised.
I mean, after the last conversation about the climate change resolution, I'm looking at the language under reserve balance. And I'm wondering if we can, the sentence that's in red that starts to protect the district from unforeseen circumstances, such as revenue shortfalls and unanticipated expenditures, the board will strive to maintain, I'm thinking. Because by saying the board will maintain, if we don't, if we're at 15%, we don't hit the 10% trigger in the lower language. I'm just want us to maybe have a little leeway. I'm wondering what you think about that.
So I wouldn't change the first sentence, because the first sentence is we're just saying we're going to have a minimum greater than 3%. That strikes, because that's what 5 CCR 15443 refers to. So if you mean the second sentence, we could say this target as opposed to this minimum.
But the first sentence does relate to 17%. It says this minimum.
No, the first sentence is to protect the district. Am I reading the same?
Yeah, but the second sentence ties into the first sentence. It says this minimum, that the beginning of that second sentence refers to the minimum referred to in the first sentence.
Well,
no. First paragraph. So to clarify, what Mr. Futterman is referring to is the shall. The shall is a requirement under the CCR, the 3%. Yeah. So when you get into that second paragraph, to protect the district, is that the one you're starting?
That's the one I'm.
So the will. Yeah, it's up to the board. Will is less strong than shall. I mean, in terms of legal.
No, but all that's will maintain a minimum unassigned fund balance reserve that exceeds 3%.
And that minimum.
Period.
And that minimum will equal 17%.
Oh, I see. There's okay. To protect this.
No, but that's the next sentence. That's what I'm talking about. So instead of saying this minimum, we can say, all we're saying is the minimum has got to exceed 3. Then the next sentence can say, the district's target.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Will equal 17% if you don't want to have that as 17% as a minimum. See what I mean?
I'm reading it. I'm reading that first sentence and second sentence tied together. The second sentence is talking about 17%, which is inclusive of the 3% that we know we can't drop below. And the first sentence refers to the whole kit and caboodle as well. And maybe I'm not reading it right, but I don't think that first sentence is just about the 3%. I think it's about everything.
I don't think so, because it says minimum unassigned fund balance reserve that exceeds just the substitute 3% for the requirements of Title V CCR.
Oh, yeah, I see what Michael's saying. Yeah, because we're saying it's going to exceed it.
Right. All we're saying is that our minimum.
So that they're tied.
3% in the first sentence. of that paragraph. That's what CCR 15-443
Okay.
is.
Let me read it.
But then we're saying we want to exceed that.
Yeah, no, I
Right.
get
We're saying
that
we
part.
will exceed that.
Yes, sorry. Yes, we will exceed that, and it describes how we will exceed that. Yes.
And then we can tend to address your issue. If you're concerned about saying a minimum of 17, we can say something like the district target.
Yeah, I mean, I do like that, a target, rather than we will maintain it, because we know that we will fall below that. Between 10 and 17%, there's a lot of leeway there. I'm still struggling with the first sentence, but maybe it's because it's the time of night. I don't know. I don't know what that Title V CCR
Could I
reads.
put this, suggest as maybe this targeted minimum or something? Will
Okay.
equal 17%.
How are you guys feeling?
I'm feeling really good how it is. But then I'm getting tired. No, but actually but you need to be comfortable.
It's reading fine to you, Chuck and Barbara, and you guys are good? Okay, then I'm,
It's what the board has been talking about, is what I was trying to, all
It feels
throughout.
like it's memorializing what
It's the
our work has
workshops,
been.
it's
So that's what I really like it. It's, yeah.
so what does that second sentence read now on your notes, David?
Well, the suggestion is I suggested this targeted minimum instead of just minimum.
Okay.
But I'm fine either way. We could, if that helps on the board.
I'm good with that. Okay. I can live with that.
I will put that in my notes.
Do you want to make a motion now and he can make the change? That you
Yes. I move that I need to look at the language.
Actually, this is a third read, so is that action? I have to make sure.
It is.
It is a third read.
Yeah. So yes, it's because the changes are significant, it'll come back next time under consent for
Okay.
approval.
Okay.
I didn't want to, yes, that's why there's no action. It was deliberate.
Okay.
So we'll have it
No
next
action.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we'll bring that back.
So let's regroup here. It's 9:15. We have more work to do in closed session. I'm willing to go without a board president report. If there's trustee reports that you think the other trustees need to hear, we'll welcome those. Otherwise, I think we go through the consent agenda. We can do it, yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying, if there's something urgent that you need to tell us tonight. Okay, so why don't we scrap that? Dr. Yoshihara, are you able to push back your superintendent report? Very good. Board communications? There were none. So now on the consent agenda, there's only a couple items. I can be very quick. I asked for consent agenda item A. There were, and I think the easiest thing to do with this, because there was a couple sections I thought were actually missing. One thing was that you were not here. You had the meeting to go to, and I made note of that, and I said we had a combined report, and I wanted to make sure that got in the minutes, that you and I talked before the meeting about thanking everyone. So there's some edits. I think we'll just take it off if you don't mind and just bring it back next time so I have time to submit those. Yeah, so we'll table that. Then Chuck, you wish to have item 17B pulled, which is the purchase orders over 7,500. Did you have a specific question?
Well, I have a question and then I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
But my question is the Student Services Wellness Center Data System Project. What is that?
Oh, yeah, that one.
Oh, that's
That was ETR.
Yeah, the Berkeley guy. He's not from Berkeley, but his company's
ETR Associates goes.
in Emeryville. Yeah, he always does.
That's the data system where it's the WISH system that he's reported on, where they collect all of the information on students that we're seeing to track impact of wellness.
Okay. Just curious.
Any other questions on that?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I did note about over $300,000 of IT spending, and it just hit me as it just seemed like it went on and on and on. And I'm sure we can get some comment from Rose about that, unless Tara, you.
A lot of that is the E-rate funding that she presented at the beginning of the year.
So it's in the
because
budget
most of those projects are actually done over the summer. So it does tend to hit the board in big chunks, but yeah, so all of that is, we are replacing, I guess, switches and wireless access points and upgrading our firewall and all of that, which was part of the E-rate funding.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions on the purchase orders? Okay, can I ask for a motion to pass item 17B to approve purchase orders over $7,500 for fiscal year 17-18?
I move to approve purchase orders over $7,500 on list number 12.
Is there a second?
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. So the last
And
item.
one abstention.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the last item, and we don't need to spend time on it. It's more that I know that Dr. Yoshihara, you and I exchanged some emails, and then I realized I still wasn't clear, and I don't need to be made clear tonight. We'll still approve it. But if it could, I just want to note it. I just would like to learn more about the high risk and something labeled a high risk, and it being because of the jumpy house, and really what sort of evaluation the district's done. Who is it that made the determination that the jumpy house is high risk? And
Keenan.
Okay. And Keenan is our insurance company, and they base that on injury rates from jumpy houses, or
probably.
Yeah, I just wondered. I'd like to learn more about that at some point. It doesn't have to be tonight. That it just hit the radar that, we
They
know
also
this.
think dunk tanks are
if
high
something's
risk.
high risk as a jumpy house, and then on there, especially because there's a swimming pool. I thought, gee, we're approving high risk jumpy house swimming pool. Just felt a little uncomfortable. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I think it has more to do with lawsuits.
Oh, just that.
In
Okay.
other words, rattlesnake bites are high risk, but bee stings are not.
Okay. Not neck injuries or suffocation from jumpy houses. Anyway, just checking.
Archery is high risk, but cheerleading is not.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Like hell.
Yeah, I was going to say. So can I have a motion to approve the senior picnic, Sir Francis Drake High School?
I move to approve Drake's senior picnic.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. So we are going to not officially hit the gavel and conclude the meeting. We're going to return to closed session and finish our items in closed session, and then I'll come out. Oh, thank you. Yes.
It's the United States